Okay, I think we'll get started, everyone. Welcome. Here we are again. Okay. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge that the land that we meet on tonight is the traditional lands for the Kaurna people, and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the custodians of the Greater Adelaide region, and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still as important to the living Kaurna people today. Welcome, everyone. I believe Councillor Shanks is just running a little bit late, so we'll note when he comes. I don't have any apologies. Are there any motions to grant leave of absence, councillors? Be none. I have no leave of absence, non-attendance, no public open forum. Now, I have had a request from Tony Piccolo, member for Light, and I think you're over there in the corner. I can't see you, Tony. Would you like to come forward, Tony? Thank you.
Did you turn on for me? Thanks, Your Worship. Your staff are very helpful. They even turned on the mic for me because I couldn't get it right last night. Your Worship and councillors, thank you for this opportunity to address you just very briefly. The reason I'm here tonight is just to provide the council some feedback, which I've received from some constituents. I don't always do this, but on this particular occasion, this constituent of mine, this nice older lady, came and saw me, insisted I come and tell council of her opinion on a particular matter, and also some other constituents, so I don't like to let them down. The topic I'm talking about is the Walker Place toilets, and the people have approached me about their views on this matter. But basically, from what I've read from the different submissions I've received, there's essentially just three issues they've raised in summary. One is that they think they should be retained because it's proximity to Walker Place, and given that council has upgraded Walker Place, which I'm familiar with because it was actually a grant promised by the previous Labor government back in January, February 2018, I think it was announced from memory. I think it was from memory, it was actually one of the events,
Fringe.
That's it, thank you, Your Worship, the Fringe events where that was announced. So I'm familiar with the grant. I think the state government of the day gave out $1 million from memory or thereabouts, which involved Walker Place and a few other projects, and this was one of those. The other issue which has been raised, apart from the proximity to Walker Place, the issue has been raised that people who've written to me have said that they see demolishing those toilets as a waste. They think they could be upgraded, and their preference is for upgrading. And that, so they're the views I've put on behalf of these people who've written to me. As I said, I'm aware of the origins of this grant, which goes back to January, February 2018, and that I understand one of the concerns councillors might have is that any further delay could actually prejudice that grant, which is a reasonable thing to think about, of course. All I can say in that regard, and that's only my opinion, is that and it was actually mentioned in State Parliament today, most of the grant agencies are now reviewing those in view of COVID. A lot of things are running behind schedule because of COVID, and so they're being much more lenient at the moment if communities actually wish to revisit their grants, etc., as long as they're carried out in a constructive and way, in a sense not unusual delays. Most agencies are now actually renegotiating those. So that's only all I wanted to say. I'm happy to answer any questions, but it's just very brief. It's a promise I made to this lady, so I thought I'd better come along and do it tonight. And I'm running a bit behind schedule. I normally would write to you, but I was running a bit behind schedule. Last week, the lockdown put me further behind. I'd just like to express my views to the council on these constituents' behalf.
Thank you.
No questions?
Councillor Tooley, you got your hand up.
Thank you, Mayor. Tony, you've been a minister, and I'm sure you've had an awful lot of experience with grants. Mm-hmm. From your experience, and lots of grants are given, are they absolutely rock solid, or do the people who grant them, the government agencies who grant them, allow some flexibility because things change over time or feedback changes? Are they always just hardline and say, nope, if you don't do it exactly as we gave it to you, that's it, and we want our money back? Or do they allow for a degree of negotiation and flexibility?
I can only speak of the grants which my agencies were involved in, okay? And my agencies, I was involved in what now is called human services. And so they're the agencies, maybe community services grants, etc. An area where often the grants were handed out, and things will change, circumstances will change, okay? What I can say is that there are some important things to think about though. Generally speaking, if the grant money was expedited in the same financial year, there's less issues with that, okay? Because there's a whole range of budgeting things. So for example, if a grant was provided for in X number year and it was a few months late but still within the financial year, normally not an issue. Normally not an issue. Secondly, the grant has to be used for the, generally speaking, for the purposes intended, in the sense that if it's around public amenities, this one was about, is public amenities. It was part of the open space grants, which now been pillaged by the current government. That's a partisan comment, so I'll go back. But the open space grants have a certain thing. So as long as they're used, you can't just pick up a grant and use it for another completely different purpose. Okay, so as long as they're in...
Yeah, and I think that's the issue, isn't it? And I might just ask Mr. Delina to talk about that, because you've been in contact with the department and there has been already an extension to this grant. Is that correct?
Yeah, certainly happy to answer that through you, Mayor. Part of the...
I'll just let Mr. Delina.
So just to
I think
that
it's
point,
an important point. Yeah.
just to that point, the grant has been extended once before, from June to December, and then have engaged with them since, and they've given us a final, effectively, last chance by the end of February. And that was a conversation we had with the officer direct from Department of, or the Places for People grant.
And it's 140,000, isn't it, that we're talking about?
Depending on the nature of the decision, one of the decisions, if we were to retain the toilets, would result in a loss of $140,000 of the grant funding.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Tony Piccolo? Councillor Davies.
So I just wanted to clarify about this difference between, I guess, what's considered relevant, because, so is it, because I understand that you can't use a grant that's about toilets and then spend it on a statue or something, but you can, I guess you can adjust things slightly, I imagine, but like when it comes to this topic of like, instead of the park for the toilets, if you refurbish the toilets, is that, in your experience, something that would be considered within a range of the grant? Or
Like I said, is that I can only speak about the grants. When I was minister, I can't speak about other grants, but the general philosophy, if you like, but certainly, and it's been supported. I mean, the answer just indicated that, a reasonable extension time would be allowed, and that's been allowed once already, I understand. So I was correct on the first case there. In terms of the grants, I think the reality is you have to look at the intent of the grant, and also part of the intent of a grant is to actually provide an amenity or service of some sort. There's also a time factor involved, okay? And that's a lot of times that's important. A lot of grants are what they call have to be for shovel-ready projects, and if you do delay them, you can actually get overlooked. That's the case, okay? In terms of the case, I'm trying to think of a case which might be similar to what you're raising, but one I've been involved in. For example, Men's Shed would be a good example, and they got a grant for particular equipment. Now, for some reason, that equipment was not available anymore, or some other reason, the Men's Shed would actually then apply for a different piece of equipment, or say, can we substitute this piece of equipment for that one there? And that was allowed, for example. Okay, you can't go out and do something quite different, but it was also the same thing. So you're better placed than I am, though, to what the circumstances of this particular case are. I haven't been involved in this at all, apart from 2 years ago when I helped lobby for the grant, and that has been my involvement. But certainly, I would say, given the current COVID climate, agencies are much more lenient than sometimes they have been. In fact, today the Minister for Sport, and it's on the record, you can see it, said a lot of the sports grants from last year have not been used in the timeframes, and purposes, because sporting groups haven't just been able to do things, businesses haven't been there, and he's actually extended all the grants right out for those groups. So it's not a black and white answer, because it depends on the circumstances of what's involved. But equally, I'd say, don't be afraid, of asking and saying this is what our preferred position is because of community participation. Okay, but it's your decision, not mine.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr Piccolo.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, councillors.
Okay, that concludes the public open forum. There are no deputations. Thanks, Tony. Thanks. Declarations of interest. Is there any matter in this agenda that gives rise to an interest of any member this evening? There be none? Okay, we'll keep moving. So we move to our adjourned items. These are confidential, or recommended to be confidential items. Council, do you want to proceed with these and get them out of the way, or how do you wish to proceed? Councillor Davey, Councillor Shanks.
Given the nature of the items and the fact that they're probably not time sensitive, I sort of would recommend that we move them to the back of the agenda.
To 18?
Yeah,
So you're moving that way, Councillor Shanks?
I am, yes.
That we move item 6 to item 18. You second that? Are you seconding it? Yes. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yep.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Plus, we have to deal with these items first, and we are dealing with them by putting them into the confidential. Yes. So we are following the process, because we actually are dealing with them. So I'm happy to do that.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? If not, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. So they are now moved down to 18. Thank you. There are no petitions. Confirmation of minutes. I'm just going to make note of confirmation of minutes. I'll do them one at a time. You want to move the first one, Councillor Shanks? Is that what you're doing?
Just a question, actually. We just rolled over petitions there. I just had a question. Sent through a petition this afternoon. I was just wondering if we'd be able to, I know I probably missed the deadline there, we'd be able to note in there that a petition will be presented, the next one, or how do you want to address that?
Petitions, there's some process around petitions. Do you want to just outline what that is, Chris?
Okay. No worries. So that one will run through there. All right, no worries. Confirmation of minutes. I'm happy to confirm both the top two. However, the third one, I don't believe the minutes are out yet.
So we'll do them one at a time. So ordinary council meeting 27th of October. You happy to move that way? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Goldstone. All those in favour? All those against? It is carried. Special council meeting 3rd of November. Happy to move that way. Councillor Hughes, seconded by Councillor Shanks. All those in favour? All those against? It is carried. Special council meeting 23rd of November. They're not out yet, so we won't. You're right, Councillor Shanks. We'll just cross that off and they'll come up in the next meeting. Business arising from minutes. Council member reports. Do we have a list of? I think we did have a list. Any council member reports? Councillor Fraser.
I'd just like to report on the community house. It's been a tough year, as everybody knows, with COVID, but we had an ACES accreditation, which means that we were audited and we came through with flying colours with 100%. So,
Oh, fantastic.
okay,
Congratulations.
So, I thought that was worth just noting that it's the third time we've done it. It's the first time we've got 100% first up. So usually there's a couple of things that come back that we've got to correct. But this time it was 100% straight up. So we're very proud of that.
Any other elected member reports? Councillor Hughes?
Just this Thursday night, I think all elected members were sent the link for the Gawler and Districts Health Advisory Council, their AGM, and they will be struggling to get a quorum. So any councillor that can, and their family members that can dial in at the start of the meeting. The AGM only normally goes for 10-15 minutes. It's fairly quick, but to get a quorum, we actually need people to dial in, which would be really good. And yeah, it's because of COVID, there's no visitors to the hospital at the moment at all, but they do need to have their AGM, and to have the AGM, they need a quorum. So that's all.
So if there's no other elected member reports, I might just go through some of the activities that I've been up to as mayor. So firstly, I attended the LGA AGM on the 29th of October. Councillor Tooley was there too as an observer. And there was probably one of the best debates that's been had in recent times around the climate emergency motion that we put up. It only just went down 51-52. So it was very close. I think that it gives an opportunity for potentially this council to present that motion again at the OGM or the next AGM. That's up to council, but I think there is growing interest. The debate was quite different this year than last year, and I think that people are starting to realise the importance of the need to address climate change, climate emergency and climate action. And so, yeah, it was really quite interesting. There were some really predictable questions and concerns around the definition of climate emergency. It was answered beautifully by the City of Salisbury, Councillor Buchanan. That was probably a highlight because that really allowed a few more people to vote for the motion. So yeah, it will always be a challenging one, because many regional councils and elected members seem to have a different view, although I think their communities don't have a different view, and it is about encouraging them to see the facts and also see it's not a threat to them. It's actually a really important thing to do. So that was that. That was probably the main one. I also attended. I presented at Shadow Cabinet before they finalised Schubert. There was a Shadow Cabinet meeting in the Barossa, and I presented on our essentially some of the major projects and opportunities for Gawler, in particular around sport and rec. Essex Park in particular, did mention Carbeathan, but Carbeathan isn't in Schubert, so it wasn't all that relevant for Schubert, but did actually mention the importance of sport and recreation, and also in particular women's sport, which if you look at the participation, it's quite high. And we do have really ageing community facilities. It was received really well, particularly by the Leader of the Opposition, Peter Malinauskas. There were some really good questions asked by the Cabinet members. Yeah, so I think that was worth doing. I'd like to thank staff, particularly David Barrett, for helping put that presentation together. I attended also Anti-Poverty Network Forum in Salisbury on Thursday the 5th of November with other northern councils and Port Adelaide Enfield, and met with the Anti-Poverty Network and spoke with people who had basically received a circuit breaker with Job Seeker. during this COVID time, and it was really around advocacy, around social justice and equity for people doing it tough on JobKeeper. I also spoke at the opening of Art in the Right Place, which is, you can see just down in the Institute here, put on by a range of art societies and groups from Gawler and surrounds. And we have a range of exhibitions. We have one in the Innovation Hub, we have one in the Institute, one in the foyer. Please go and have a look. It's really interesting. So we've got Art in the Right Place and also Arts on the Plains. I also went and presented to the 2020 Super Series cycling event that happened on Richard Schomburg Drive on Sunday, the 8th of November. And it's quite an elite amateur event, but there were Olympians there riding on our track. And they said it was an absolutely exceptional track, the hardest in that particular series. It was really well run. They're keen to come back and very cost effective, a beautiful road. They loved it, it's brand new. So I think that was quite a success. Also, on the 11th of November, I represented the town of Gawler at the Remembrance Day service in Pioneer Park, and we had a fly past Councillor Little. Have I got that right? I got that right. What type of plane was it? A P3? Right. Well, it was very impressive, and of course beautifully run service by the RSL as always. MC'd by Robert Ely, always on task. So yes, really, and quite a number of people given COVID. I think it was quite a respectable crowd. Paul, would you? 5 years, yeah. So I think, and there were a number of elected members there as well. So thank you for attending that event. I also attended an online forum about women in leadership discussing, and it was women from both Sydney and Melbourne, so it was run by Zoom. There was probably about 20 women, some women from politics, some women who work in management, etc., talking about the book that Julia Gillard wrote with Ngozi from Africa, and the effects of women in leadership and just some of the similar themes. And that was really worthwhile doing. And in fact, I met a woman that runs the Social Enterprise Innovation Hub for the Asylum Seeker Resource Centre in Melbourne. Really absolutely dynamic woman. And I am setting up a meeting with her and Trevor Taylor from the RDA Barossa very soon to talk about social enterprise. We'll just have a chat, which is what you do when you meet people. It's just really great opportunity. I think that's all from me. Thanks everyone for listening. Councillor Tooley.
Yes, I attended the LGA AGM. I had registered online and was able to get in. It was a little bit more controlled because of COVID. But as you might imagine, I was very interested to attend because essentially my motion regarding climate emergency, which had been endorsed by this council, was the matter that was coming before. In the lead up to it, I did extensive lobbying with my networks, and I contacted an awful lot of mayors in lobbying them and encouraging them to vote the right way. And a small group joined me. We got there at about 8 o'clock and we welcomed every delegate. We had our signs, we had our posters. We were well received, very different to the way we were received in the front of the previous meeting at the Adelaide Oval, where a number of mayors were incredibly abusive one mayor in particular set the security onto us and tried to evict us. He also spoke during the meeting as if climate change didn't matter, but he got his comeuppance because almost the whole of his island was destroyed by bushfires. And I thought, what a terrible way to teach you a lesson. But he was incredibly abusive towards us. But at this meeting, it was a very different culture. And the vote was lost by one vote. My biggest disappointment is that no one called a division, because had a division been called, there's a likelihood that some people, knowing they would have been shamed by the division, may have changed their vote. And that would be my suggestion next time, is that a division is called at that meeting. The other thing that's significant is the leadership change is incredibly significant. I have lobbied Mr. Telfer privately an awful lot. I've met him, I've met Mr. Pinniger, and I have lobbied them consistently and got nowhere. Angela Evans, the new LGA president, is not only the new president, but earlier this year, I was part of the work group that established Climate Action Australia. It came out of the summit in Melbourne in February last year. And Angela has become South Australia's delegate to that climate action group, which is stunning. So she comes into that position with real credentials, advocacy, and now a powerful position to advocate for climate change. So I agree with Mayor Redmond that I think if we are to put our motion again to the OGM, which comes up, I think, in April, we now have a leadership advocacy which will be very influential. Last two things I took away. I was impressed with the number of councillors that attended with their mayors. And of particular note, two councillors stood out to me, Salisbury and Adelaide City. And every time they voted and every time they spoke, it was their councillor who stood and voted and their councillor who advocated. And my final takeaway was Nicola Spuria, Saint Nicola, was generous enough to come up and have a chat, and I got a lovely selfie with her, which I quite treasure. Two little grey heads together. And she is just a remarkable woman, as you all would know. And she was there assisting the Minister for Health in presenting some significant awards. So, yeah, there's some of my takeaways and some of the optimism that I think we now have with the new leadership.
Thank you. Any other elected member reports? If not, we've noted the verbal reports. Thanks, everyone. I think we'll move on to officers' reports. So now we move on. I'm on page 8. We have the Gawler Rail electrification project update. Now, Sam, have we got some people zooming in? Are they there? I can only see David Barrett. Sorry? Where are they? Hello? Is anyone there?
Yeah, Karen, I can hear you. David Waltham here.
I can't. Is that David?
Yeah, it is. David Waltham.
Hi, David.
Yeah.
It's Karen Redmond. Nice to see you.
G'day.
I can barely hear you. Are you turning him up?
I'll try and turn it up.
Is it just you, David, or is there anyone else there?
There's 3 of us, but I'm not sure where my colleagues are.
Okay.
You turn it
Okay.
up.
So thank you for coming. It's David Waltham, Department of Infrastructure and Transport, who's the delivery manager for rail projects. So welcome, David, to the meeting.
Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Hughes.
I was wondering if I could ask a question of David, maybe.
Well, they're here to answer any queries. So
the question through the chair is regarding the two-way traffic on Bridge Street North and the possibility of actually being able to keep that two-way traffic and the fact that that extra land on that side would basically mean that the existing railway station would be knocked out, where on the other side of the rail line there's car park, and just seems crazy to want to grab that extra land on the northern side, which would be a corridor all the way through the existing rail station.
Yeah, so thanks for the question. Look, at the project's being developed in accordance with the rail policy requiring that rail infrastructure rail infrastructure is not installed to preclude station platform extensions where required. And in this case, the platform at Gawler Central Station is capable of accommodating a three-car train, electric three-car train. And the design, as discussed and analysed in the traffic reports, provides for that rail policy and ensures that if required, an extension of that platform could be constructed to bring 6-car trains into Gawler Central Station. And that's principally one of the key reasons that the design has been developed in the way that it is shown on the plans as is.
Subsequent.
Is there a way of having the design and still keeping the two lanes on Bridge Street North? Because it would be quite handy for all those residents to actually use that two-way traffic, because it in a way would make King Street just a dead-end street with restricting it to one lane.
We have one lane in that tight section. Yeah, effectively in order to clear make clearance for that provision, it appears that there's about a 2.5 metre widening from where the current retaining wall is, so that the design has shown the footpath that is on closest to the railway would be eliminated, and the footpath on the other side would be used. So that reduces the encroachment to around just over 1 metre on the roadway itself. The part of the reason for the footpath really wanted to get people away from the wires. That Bridge Street North slopes down at quite a grade, and not far from the current bridge location, really to be very close to live wires, and that's also another sort of component of the consideration there. So I would have to take that to the engineers and ask for a bit more dialogue. So I'm not an absolute specialist in that area, but they're the two factors that I understand are in play that are making it difficult to provide a greater width there. So it's currently, I think, 5.5 metres wide on that section of the road, and providing. Yeah, I'd have to take advice from some of the engineering staff to give a bit more analysis on that.
Just ask the question, then I'll go to you, Councillor Chorley. So just on the map, I'm looking at, I don't know how you determine these maps, but it's on page 43 of our attachments. And I'm looking at the bridge, the platform, and you've got the platform on both sides, and then it stretches under the pedestrian bridge, the entire length of the picture. Is that correct? Have I interpreted that right, that you've got a platform going under the bridge south?
So there's no platform there, Karen. I think what that is it, I can't see the plan you're looking at, but is it a red coloured square or something like that you're looking at?
Because there's no legend, you can't interpret what it is. It actually says platform on where the Gawler Central Railway Station is, and it's the yellow strip that I'm looking at this picture. I don't know if people can, so on page 43, and you've got that yellow strip all the way down. And it says platform on there. So I can only assume that's a platform all the way through. Is that right?
I haven't, the plans I think you might be looking at are the vegetation clearance plans, which have a red sort of inner zone and then a yellow strip that goes for the, so I think they're the vegetation clearance plans. So that might just be some text at the back of a base plan showing the electrical clearance zones. So the yellow zone represents the vegetation buffer zone, and the red boundary on that plan is the 3 metre electrical clearance zone from live infrastructure. So I think that, effectively, I think the question Karen is how far.
Oh, hang on. What's happened there? Oh, that's me. I don't know what happened there. Hello.
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Where'd be gone? Oh, I see. So who was that? Is that Chloe?
Hello, sorry about that. My internet dropped out just as I was about to join. My apologies.
That's okay. Welcome, Chloe. Chloe Ringwood from, is it Acciona or Acciona?
Acciona.
Acciona, Stakeholder Consultation Manager.
That's great.
So,
hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And I'm not sure if you can hear me. It's Chris Podger here.
Oh, yeah, we can.
Environmental Manager with Acciona.
It's just that we only see one picture, but now we can see all of you. That's all right, but you're very little. Very little. Okay, I might go to Councillor Tooley. Your question, Councillor Tooley.
Thank you, Mayor. Hello, everyone. Councillor Tooley here. My questions are on a similar vein. I've been out and met with some very concerned residents in that area, and with them, we've walked out and measured the area. And the diagram that I'm looking at is the same one Mayor Redmond was looking at, and I can't distinguish the total length of the anticipated platform, but the concerns I just want to stress are exactly the same. If the road on Bridge Street is not two-way, and we know that the proposal is that King Street King Street North revert from being a one-way to a two-way, it presents a significant problem for the people in that area, and some do have caravans, trailers, etc., in being able to manoeuvre because they won't be able to go the other direction. The same problem applies for people leaving the car park, and that car park is regularly full and it will get fuller once the electrification occurs, that they can only go in one direction. It presents a problem as well. When we looked at it, and we're lay people measuring, we're not engineers, but when we looked at it, we saw a great opportunity on the south side of the bridge to excavate for the widening to accommodate the two tracks. We don't know how far back you're going to come with the platform, but it would come back a long way if you were to actually come back to that portion of the embankment on the north. So I guess there's two questions. Does that have to happen? And how often would a 6-car train be there to warrant that? Because if for the majority of time it's going to be a 3, 4 or 5-car train and you don't need to come that far back, then you can leave the northern embankment on the King Street Bridge intact. You can then leave that road intact, and then it can be a two-way to connect with Bridge Street North.
Yeah. Okay,
Thank you. Okay.
Does that make sense? And do you have any comment for me?
Yeah, so look, I think perhaps the comment, I understand some of the concerns you've raised, and we've heard that come back through the community sessions around long vehicles on King Street, caravans in particular. And I guess in relation to that, I'd say the design work for that traffic configuration is ongoing, and that needs to find a solution for those sort of issues raised there. So that is certainly relevant and needs an answer. I'm not quite picturing the proposal for the alternative platform extension. Just to give some context, the current platform's 120 metres long, 115 metres long, thereabouts. And the extension would take that to 160 is the future proofing provision to ensure that 6-car trains could come in. As to the frequency of those services, they don't currently come in there because the platform cannot accommodate it. I guess it would potentially provide a limitation on the way that the rail servicing is performed into Gawler Central. So a 6-car train could run from Gawler Central right the way through to Gawler. If that provision did not exist, then a 3-car train would only be able to service Gawler Central, and that would impact the potential service patterns that the public transport might offer. So whether that meant shuttle services or a range of 3-car consists. So that's the impact of not being able to provide that provision, really, if that makes sense in the public transport way.
Thanks, David. Just on the double track, what discussions have been had around the bridge over the South Para, which is a single track bridge?
So there haven't been any specific that I'm aware of, not under the project, I guess I'm talking about here, Karen, because I'm not involved in the in SAPTA's planning area, but under the project, we that bridge is only a single track, and my understanding to provide a dual track around to Gawler Central would require obviously another structure. I'm not aware of the planning work that may have gone into those sort of future plans on what that would look like, but we haven't been progressing that under the project as it's beyond the scope.
So I think you know where I'm leading with this. If there's no plans to make that a double track, why is there such an urgency to have a double track at the King Street pedestrian bridge? Because there used to be a double track when it was the Coles sale yards. There was in fact a double track at that train station. So there is capacity to allow a double track after you come under the pedestrian bridge, not before.
Okay.
So why wasn't that considered?
Yes, I don't think, I'm not quite sure the question about the double track, that's really to do with the capacity and probably more to do with the line extension type scenario. So effectively there's the Gawler Central Railway Station platform is on the northern side, and in order to utilise that for longer cars, and in keeping with the rail policy, that's the reason for that proposed provision for extension. That would, yes, in an extended line scenario, if it did dual track, then a duplicate line and platform on the southern side presumably could be added, and that also clears the pedestrian crossing bridge that is being installed, so it is capable for both of those functions.
Councillor Tooley.
Thank you, and thank you for taking our feedback on board. One last question. We are aware that Concordia, you would be aware that Concordia is bubbling away. It is anticipated to be a very large development when it gets the green light. There is a group that has already signed up most of the land. There's a lot of work done. We have seen a flyby design proposal by the financial backers of that, which showed the rail line being lowered to go under the main Murray Street to allow for the rail to extend initially to somewhere like the Wheatsheaf Inn area, with the additional potential to go back into the Barossa. And you'd be aware that there's a lot of moves from some fairly influential people in the Barossa that would love to see the wine train, etc., come back. Where I'm going to my question is that you're arguing that a lot of the work you're doing is for future proofing, i.e. even if the double track doesn't come because you can't extend it over the bridge, the bridge that the Mayor was talking about, what you want to do is you want to do the civil works now with King Street Bridge, even though it may be quite some time before 6-car carriages come, quite some time before a dual track is needed. Therefore, a lot of that infrastructure will sit idle, but your argument is you're future-proofing. So my question is, if you're future-proofing and it's cost-effective to be forward-thinking, why are you not thinking about that possibility of lowering that track? Because the incline that you come up there is perfect to slowly lower it to go under the road, which would be far cheaper than ever trying to build a bridge over. It would look ugly. You could drop it down. Why have we heard nothing about that possibility of future-proofing in that way? And I know this, that developer would work in financial collaboration with the department to completely redevelop that northern entry. That's what we've seen. They talked about it as a Fremantle-style lowering of the track. You come up then into a massive mall. You lead into the entrance of Gawler. It was innovative. It was forward-thinking. It had park and ride. It had a stunning set of shops.
So I'm going to ask...
generate immense money. So
I'm going to keep moving.
Why are you not forward-thinking in that direction?
David, if you could provide, or somebody, if you're happy to provide a response to that question. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Tully. Some time ago, I think I was aware of that kind of proposal. Really, I guess that, and unfortunately, that's I guess in terms of my remit on the Gawler electrification project, that's really a matter for planning, and some consideration has been made of the potential for future extension. The details of exactly the timing and the concept I'm not aware of, and all the service pattern. So I guess it's beyond the scope in terms of our current commitment. The planning department have looked at that work in the past. I'm just not 100% sure of the timing and or concept sort of considerations that might occur there. Councillor Tully.
So we might I'd just like to say thank you for David, Chris and Chloe for zooming in. Oh, one last question, because we'll probably we'll only discuss one item tonight.
Yep, thanks, Mayor. Look, I've been through all the images about the tree removals. I'm just a bit concerned about those. Some of those, just a bit, to go backwards a bit, I'm actually an arborist, so I've got an interest in this. Some of the trees to me look a bit arbitrary, the ones that you're going to remove. I'm just wondering whether any thought has gone into pruning to be a risk management instead of actually removing.
Yeah, I'll take this one. Absolutely. We've absolutely prioritised pruning impacts over removals. We've been on a really long journey on this project, refining the design. So when we got our initial design, the 30% design they call it, we did a vegetation impact assessment and found that there were definitely areas we could refine the design to reduce the impacts. So we challenged our designers to look for engineering solutions to bring those impacts down. And we did that multiple times along the design development. So there's a 30% gate and a 70% gate and a 90% gate. And at each of those gates, we did an assessment of what was the vegetation that was going to be impacted. And along that way, we've reduced those impacts by over 40% from the original 30% concept design. So we've had some really good wins. We've also identified a couple of locations at Railway Terrace where we've been able to change the design and really get some good wins in terms of vegetation retention. Also at Marsh Avenue, we're moving a fence and changing the property boundary to enable a whole row of screening trees on that street to be retained. So we've really gone to a lot of effort to retain as much as we can and prioritise pruning over removal. And I think the engineering team's done a really good job of that. Unfortunately, the reality is there is an electrical clearance zone that we have to maintain as clear, or there's a risk of arcing and causing fires. So that is sort of a non-negotiable area that has to be kept clear. And then there's a 2 metre maintenance zone as well, which is the yellow zone on those drawings. And that's where we've had some wiggle room, I guess, where we've been able to prune instead of remove when they're encroaching on those areas. Yeah, so it's been a long journey.
Thank you, Chris. Yep, and then we might keep moving. Thank you.
Yeah, the other one is, have you considered horizontal boring instead of hydrovacking or trenching? I mean, yes. I've used that before and it's been quite successful.
Yes, we have got various runs of underboring. One example of that is in the region of the South Parra River, where there's some really big old remnant gum trees there. So we've got some underbore happening in that location. That one immediately comes to mind. So, yep, they have looked at that and prioritised that where possible. We've also, where we've got underground services that need to be installed, we've looked at where we can switch the sides of the tracks. So if there's greater root impacts on one side than the other, then they do a short underbore under the tracks and then run the underground services along the east side of the track, for example. So there is some things that have been done. There's also a galvanised steel trough, which is when the underground services actually come up to ground level. So that was another sort of tool that the engineering team had at their disposal to reduce impacts.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, gentlemen, and Chloe for coming along this evening. So we have an officer's recommendation here, councillors. Or we could go home. You happy to move that way, Councillor Little? Lovely. Do you wish to speak at all? Is there a seconder? Councillor Fraser, do you wish to speak? Open for discussion. For or against? Councillor Tooley.
I'd like to make 2 amendments in order to protect our interests along the lines of what we've discussed tonight. The first one is this, that the King Street Bridge be widened by widening to the south of its existing situation. And point 19, that Bridge Street remain a 2-way street connecting with the 2-way King Street North. My belief is that
if I can, I don't disagree with you, Councillor Tooley, but I think they're quite different. They're standalone motions, and what I will allow is them as separate motions if you wish to move them after this motion.
Could I just suggest this, Mayor, before you completely shut me off? Maybe we put the wording in the front that says, like, because here's support, notes, that council requests. If we put requests in front of them, we're adding it to the motion, we're keeping it collective, and we're at least lodging our view that we're requesting this be considered. I think if we don't do that, Mayor,
I think I'm happy to allow you to move them as a separate motion, Councillor Tooley. I'm happy to do that. Any other discussion on this particular motion? Councillor Tooley?
Well, on that basis, then I'll vote against the motion. I think our responsibility as elected members is to protect the interests of our community in both the short term and the long term. I fully respect what our professional consultants have said today. I understand a lot of what they've said. However, I'm also aware that departments can modify designs. They can change things to suit the needs of their local areas. And I think the points, my sense is that none of us disagree on this point, that Bridge Street North needs to become two-way, and King Street North, and Bridge Street needs to remain two-way. If we think of our future, and I would anticipate that where the car park is now will, in the not too distant future, become a multi-level car park of a park and ride nature, some below the surface, some up, may even be apartments on the top. We cannot ignore the growth. We've got 30,000 people coming, just our own town. We've got St Ives, we've got Freeling, we've got the Barossa South. And where does the railway line start? Gawler Central. And it's an electrified line. It will be popular. People will come and they will not be able to park. And then we'll be dealing with issues of people complaining that, well, it's a two-way street on Bridge Street North, people are parking on the side of the road. Then we'll put yellow lines up there, which will annoy the life out of people. Then we'll put permit-only signs. Then we'll have them parking in front of the caravan park area. You can imagine what will happen as people are desperate to get their cars parked because everybody wants to incentivise the use of the electrified lane. And what we'll be left with is no way to come out of that car park other than to go in one direction. And the people up on King Street North in our historic area, and there is a significant business in that area also. We don't have a motel in the town. We rely on B&Bs, and that's one of our significant B&Bs. The difficulty for people to get in and out and find the place, you can't go both ways. So I think we have an obligation as elected members in the strongest possible way to fight for what is best for our town. Because once that is done and once that is gone, there is no coming back. And that's why I moved those amendments. If they're not going to be included in this and we just endorse this, then virtually we're saying, carry on. You've heard of things, you've noted a few things, but that's all you've done. You haven't given us any hope that that could be saved. And I think we've got to fight really hard for our town. And it's essential that both of those roads are two-way. It's essential that we get some common sense in this area. And as Mayor Redden pointed out, and I hadn't even thought of this, that other bridge, that is not going to be expanded for a long, that's a major set of bucks to put 2 lanes over that bridge. So you can imagine the so-called future-proofing infrastructure that's going to rob us of that two-way road is going to sit there idle for maybe 10 years or more, with all the inconvenience that that causes. So members, I hope I've made that point clear. I would like that you don't support this motion on that basis, and that we fight for the people in our town and for the future-proofing of our town.
Any other discussion? Councillor Hughes. Councillor Hughes had his hand up first, but then you, Councillor Sample, after Councillor Hughes. Councillor Hughes was first, and then you, Councillor Sample. That's all right. I'll just, there you go.
Thank you. Actually, I agree with a lot of what Councillor Tully is saying, but this motion that we've got moved and seconded is mainly a noting report, and the two-way traffic stuff is still noting. It's not actually giving approval at this stage. So I'm actually happy to support this motion, and if Councillor Tully puts amendments up, look at those amendments. But yeah, no, I agree with, and I think that's been taken on board already, but this is mainly a noting, so I'm quite happy to support this motion.
Councillor Sample.
Thank you, Mayor Karen. Yeah, what Councillor Tully just said, I agree with, and also I agree with what Councillor Hughes said. One thing that does confuse me, there is a road to nowhere at the moment that comes down Tiver Road. It's got all the traffic lights, it's got all the good Joe and everything, and then you go down and you end up hitting a fence. we don't see anything at all in any of these plans, and that's in our Gawler Council, the Cutler area. Has there ever been any discussion on that area at all? I don't know who can answer that, whether Sam, do you know where I'm talking about? Sorry, everybody?
Yeah, Gordon Road. Yep. 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 Mr. Delaney?
If Councillor Sample is referring to the potential extension and overpass from Gordon Road for future provision, I'm very confident that's not included within the scope of the current project per se. That hasn't been discussed, hasn't been documented. There isn't even a current proposal in that regard.
It's purely the electrification, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? If not, Councillor Little, can I put that motion or do you wish to speak? Wrap up?
Yeah, the main reason I moved it is because it's a noting report. So, and it can be adjusted at a later time. So that's the main reason I moved it. The points that Councillor Julie made are quite relevant and I understand them, but this is just a noting report. So thank you.
So I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against? It is carried. Now, Councillor Tooley, I did say to you, you could move those as separate motions. Do you wish to do that? Now. You got the wording?
Meant it had to go to motions on notice.
No, we'll do it now. Get it out the way.
All right. Thank you.
So what's your wording for Chris?
This is my wording, that the King Street Bridge be widened by widening to the south of its existing situation, i.e. the southern embankment.
So I would suggest you consider, given that it is a DIT decision.
Okay, so that
as you did mention.
That? So that council requests that DTI consider. Okay.
DIT.
DIT did. Okay. And the second point is probably going to be the same lead-in. The council requests that DIT consider that Bridge Street remain a two-way street.
Bridge Street North? Or
no, is there a north or is it just Bridge Street?
It's Bridge Street North, I think.
It is, okay. That Bridge Street North remain a two-way street connecting with the two-way King Street North.
With the two-way King Street, yeah.
Well, that section is called King Street North when you go that other side of the bridge, which is currently a one-way. King Street South is two-way.
Okay. It's just King Street. There's no King Street North or South, but I know what you're saying.
Well,
connecting with the two-way, connecting with...
It seems to be referred to as King Street North.
Yeah. Okay, the request that DIT enable, or even request that DIT enable, because Bridge Street North is our road, isn't it? That's correct. Request that DIT accommodate in their construction, in their design, that would enable Bridge Street North to remain a two-way street.
You're the mayor. Well, apparently King Street North, we're not fighting over that. Everyone wants that to be two-way when this happens, and that's the plan.
That's right. That council requests that DIT consider in their plans for the upgrade, as part of the electrification of the rail line, as part of the electrification of the rail line, that consider in their plans as part of the that Bridge Street. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense, doesn't it? Sam? Yep, makes sense. Okay, you may present that.
Probably don't need to speak for too long, which will please everybody. I think we've covered all of the points and all of the reasons, so I put that to you and ask that you that we get a seconder, and then we
Seconded by Councillor Hughes. Do you wish to speak at all?
I think it's covered, and I think this just sends a bit stronger message. I think the department people, David's taken on board already, but I think it is important that council moves this motion, so support it.
Any other discussion? Councillor Shanks.
Just a question on process. So this motion, if it gets up, is going to result in a letter that we're going to send through to DIT. How are we going to request this?
Through staff.
Through staff?
It gives staff direction. You don't have to write a letter, but that you can. It gives staff direction to put this on the table formally.
Okay. All right.
Yes, Sam.
It's certainly, as staff have already started having these conversations with department, noting that this was a theme coming out of the consultation, and certainly some of the from the community. So we are, as Councillor Little referenced, we are noting that there's going to be some changes to local traffic. Those haven't landed. We haven't presented plans tonight showing how that would look, albeit the plans do show a widening to that embankment for a potential future extension of the existing platform. However, so we would take this on board and then advocate respect with the Department of Transport and their team, and then bring some information back to council for an update report as to where that ended up.
Thank you. Okay, any other discussion? If not, Councillor Tooley, are you happy for me to put that motion? I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. It is carried unanimously. Thank you. So moving on to 11.2. Now, Mr. Delina, if you'd like to provide any overarching comments for this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thanks for the opportunity to just provide a bit of a précis intro into this particular matter. It's certainly been something that's captured the attention and passion of the local community. Just in regards to this, just to break it down, the current council directions to install a new toilet, Apex Park, demolish the existing one in Julian Terrace, and that's in accordance with the town centre master plan that was adopted in 2016, which itself underwent extensive public consultation in its development, which my colleague to my right, Ryan Viney, oversaw back in 2015-16. And that included workshop sessions held with members of the community, and really created the vision, established the vision for the township in a number of precincts, the northern precinct, the central precinct, and the southern precinct, of which we've been progressing. The works in Murray Street, stage 6, has been a part of that, as well as the works in Walker Place and what's now being proposed in these toilet blocks. This vision allowed for another toilet block to be constructed in Martin's Place in the future, further north along Whitelaw Terrace by the Foodland Post Office in the longer term. And this would be approximately 80 metres from Walker Place. 80, yeah. The current limitation on grant funding acquittal is problematic in terms, as we've mentioned earlier, that the officer that we've been dealing with has been quite dogmatic in respect to the time frame. Yes, we're able to challenge that, but I'm just giving you the intel that I have and the conversations that we've had in regards to, we've had an extension to the 31st of December. We're not going to meet that time frame. We've been given a revised time frame outside of a formal variation to the deed per se, and after that there would be a, don't know what the outcome would be, but we're open to seeking a variation, albeit it seemed problematic from the conversations we've had. With respect to the new opportunity that we've got with this Changing Places grant funding, I think, well, certainly we feel it provides an opportunity to achieve a balanced outcome, and that's only been come to the fore more recently with that opportunity that we didn't apply for. We put our hand in the air saying we're interested in Changing Places, and they gave us $100,000. which is really unusual, but that's effectively what the situation as it's presented. I think this provides a balanced outcome in terms of the options presented in meeting the needs of a wide range of stakeholders, including those that require high care support for the disabilities, and including those that have recently participated in the petition. In that, it provides provision for more accessible public toilets in the town centre. And I think that's the fundamental point that's being made. So the option 4 that's been reckoned by staff, just to be clear, builds a new toilet in Apex Park, demolishes the existing Julian Terrace toilets, and builds a new highly accessible DDA compliant toilet block in Martins Place by Todd Street. It meets the grant funding requirements and allows the council to get maximum bang for buck with the grant funding that we've been provided. It uses up all of the changing places for people grant funding and also the changing places funding. Any option that retains the existing Julian Terrace toilets is essentially flushing away a minimum of $140,000 in grant funding. That funding is likely not to be able to use to refurbish the existing toilets, as we can't actually seek to commence that refurbishment until the 29th of September 2021, once the rescission motion has been, the year timeframe has passed, and then the council can reconsider whether it wants to do anything. But so the earliest that we could actually reconsider this matter is in the end of September 2021. So highly unlikely that we're going to get an extension to that extent. It's actually going to be well beyond that, because we then have to design what the council endorses at that time and then deliver it. The proposal presented by the officer's recommendation, in my view, is deemed a win-win-win for the council and the community. Win in that we get additional new toilet facilities that are constructed in the town centre, which meets the needs of the community more broadly, including people who need high care support for their disabilities. It's a win for community members who have advocated for the retention of the Julian Terrace toilets due to proximity in the town centre, in that they achieve what I believe is the principal outcome that they sought to do, which was more toilets in the town centre. And it's a win for all council members in that it's achieved an outcome which provides additional toilets in the town centre and aligns with the council's adopted strategic direction. It allows 2 toilet blocks to be constructed that are 320 metres apart in the town centre, including one that will now be 80 metres from Walker Place and located adjacent the Foodland and the post office, which staff know from the numerous calls that we've received is something that's been of concern to some of the members of the community, particularly down that end of Whitelaw Terrace. In terms of refurbishing the existing toilets, the current Places for People and Changing Places grants will not be able to be used to do this. So should no Changing Places outcome be achieved tonight, we will be effectively losing a combined $240,000 worth of grant funding for facilities which the community are asking for us to deliver now. So for context, I think it was worthwhile. I obtained a cost estimate, what it would be a cost to retrofit the existing Julian Terrace toilets, including a Changing Places facility in that toilet. So that was hot off the press today from our a cost consultant that we've used. And that cost has come in at approximately $300,000, including design and contingencies. And bearing in mind that Changing Places facility costs generally about $150,000 in its own right if it's integrated within an existing facility. So in summary, key for all, in terms of it's key for all stakeholders, namely the community, the grant provider and staff, is that we actually make a decision tonight. I believe all the information has been provided to enable that to occur. I'm more than happy to answer any questions for the council members may have.
I'm happy to, if somebody willing to move, are you happy to move? And then I'll take questions after that. You happy, you want to speak at all?
Just quickly, I think Mr. Delina's nailed it. It's a no-brainer. We're going to get a new toilet block within 12 months. It's only 80 metres away from Walker Place. We're going to get rid of the unsightly Walker Place. We'll open up the vista of that river area. We'll still retain the mural, which will be cut down, but we're going to win a pocket park for that area, which is really nice, and an extra toilet block. The people that use Foodland, Post Office and that corner are going to be well serviced. I think we've got so many toilets in Gawler, and that will be known as the toilet capital, but I think it's fantastic to get a new building and to use the grant funding this way. And I think a new build would be able to attract some quite really good designs and get a really good outcome. So otherwise, as Mr. Delena said, Joe, it could cost us at least $300,000. And it won't be until after the 21st or September 2021 we get a toilet. So I think we'll get a toilet a lot quicker within the next 12 months and use this grant funding. So no one's caught short, and it's going to be really good for Gawler to get a new toilet. I've looked at some of the comments on Facebook, and there are comments there saying that retrofitting the old toilets is just a silly idea. They just look terrible, and it's just a terrible design. There's no roof. It's the end of their useful life, and it's a lot of engineering. And it's silly, but I think this is a great outcome because we get the toilets and people get to use them sooner, and it's a good site as well. So I think it's a good outcome.
Thank you, Councillor Fraser.
I'll second this. I had quite a few people speak to me about demolishing the old toilets, only because there was nothing else close to the post office and Foodland, and they felt that, to walk all the way down to Apex Park was a long way to walk. I've actually spoken to them since we had this agenda, and they all think that this is a brilliant idea. It wasn't so much saving the old toilets was the problem, it was just not having toilets close to that area. I'm really pleased that there'll be 2 toilet blocks in Julian Terrace. I think it's really important to have toilets by the playground, but then I agree that we need one further up as well. To send money back from grant is really a bad look, and it does set you up in a bad way for future grants. But also this new toilet block that's being proposed, disability-wise, with hoists and things, is a fantastic thing. We don't have anything like that in town at the moment, and there is a lot of people in town that have a disability that this would be really helpful to. And I think we've been trying to work towards looking after this disabled, and this really sets a good impression in that way. So I will vote for this.
Open it up to the floor. So I saw you first, Councillor Goldstone, then I saw you, Councillor Davies. So in that order at this stage.
Yeah, look, I agree with the contents of Wendy's report, which is a very good report. Also agree with Sam's comments. When I read all through this and looked at option 4, it ticked all the boxes, and it was certainly is the best value for money option. So I've got no problems in supporting this.
Councillor Davies.
Yeah, so first I had a couple of questions. So when you say 80 metres from Walker Place, how many metres from the old toilets would it be? Where are you measuring Walker Place from?
Sorry, I was measuring it from broadly the other toilets, so central to Walker Place per se.
Yeah.
80 metres from the existing toilets.
Okay, 80 metres from the toilets.
Yeah.
Okay.
Further north.
Sure. And because I do note that, for example, when we approved Gawler Fringe funding for next year, it did mention that we had to provide temporary toilets because with those Walker Place toilets gone, it wasn't considered close enough to hold events, which is obviously goes against the point of being able to have events there. So is this something that is close enough that that sort of thing won't be an issue anymore? That can be treated as the Walker Place toilets?
I understand that might be related to liquor licensing. I don't know whether the 80 metres is within the acceptable distance. But notwithstanding the fact, it was always the intent when the Walker Place in this design, certainly whether it was articulated or not, that the toilets would be bumped in for the event per se. And that's a relatively cheap exercise to bump in toilets for a public event per se. And there's ample provision on that footpath adjacent Walker Place to allow that to occur. I suggest it's probably even a safer arrangement, stops people having to cross the road per se.
Okay. And second question, and just clarifying, so has it been asked outright about this grant? Like if we changed it to refurbishing the toilets, that would not count. Has that been asked outright, or is that an assumption that we're making as a council?
I have stopped short of seeking to put a number of different options or variations to the funding body, not knowing where the council would go in this regard, notwithstanding the fact that I'm very confident that us not being able to start a process until at least the 29th of September, we'll get a decision on a toilet block and potentially a decision on a revised toilet block. Then the design and construction is going to be, effectively another year and a half later than our current end of deed timeframe. The likelihood of that extension to that extent is probably, minuscule.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll speak to it then. Look, I think this is, a good idea. I'm happy to, and I was asking the questions about, how close it was to old toilets. Just clarify, like maybe do we need a third set of toilets, or like how far out is it? Because Martin Place, I have a vague idea of, but I'd never actually heard of the term Martin Place before this came up. I was familiar with the area, but didn't know it was called Martin's Place. So, this is, it makes sense if we're getting a grant to build some toilets, that we'll build some extra toilets. I'm happy to do that. I think it makes sense to me. And I think it does cover what the concerns people are having is if we have, I think if this opportunity hadn't come up, I'd probably, even with the grant situation, might have said, we might still need toilets there, because clearly people are very unhappy about not having anything in the region. But if it's that close, it's like 50 to 100 metres from it, maybe this would be a better option. But we'll see. I think it's a pretty good proposal.
So I've got Councillor Sample, then Councillor Little in that order.
And I just heard Councillor Davis say about how far is 80 metres from Walker Place. In this building, 15 million bucks worth, we have got 3 of the beautiful best toilet block in this town. There's one problem though. No one knows they're here. And that is a big problem that we have, and we must change that attitude about the fact of not telling people. The people that have rang me and Councillor Shanks and Councillor Tooley and everybody have been accepting these, the people with the petitions and that. And when I've spoken to these people, the first thing I say to them is this: but do you know there's 3 beautiful blocks of toilets in the Civic Centre? No, I never knew that. Now, we've got to be more open and say, the library is open very long hours, even on weekends and everything, the whole lot. So when you're at the post office and you're feeling like it, you've only got to walk up here. When you're at Walker Place, and if you're, singing a song or reading poetry at an event, Cody, you come up here. Now, if we get this other block, it would be very, very silly to say no to this money and build that other toilet, without a doubt. I think the misunderstanding has been, we don't promote ourselves enough to tell what we've got. And look, if you haven't used these dunnies here, go and use them, because, I just can't believe them. They are the best in so many towns and that and so forth. So we need to be more open, more signage. I know you're not allowed to put signage up, but to tell people where things are, but we need to change our attitude to that. And then I don't think we're going to have our community saying, well, why are you taking those toilets away? We've got nowhere to go. And that, when I tell the people they're here, they really are blown away. They don't know. So I think we've got to get better in promoting what we have got and what is offered there to the people that come into our town.
Thank you. Councillor Little.
It's been good discussion. I've got a couple of problems. To answer Mr. Delina's question, 80 metres is too far under the Liquor Licensing Act, I know, because being an ex-licensing sergeant, it's too far. So the Julian toilets, terrace toilets, just make the boundaries, because I checked it up yesterday, did a bit of research. So the Julian toilets are just in the boundary of under the Liquor Licensing Act. If you're going to have function there where you're going to supply alcohol or whatever, that's one reason. And if we're going to get portable toilets, that's more cost to the ratepayers. My motion that's coming up later is the fact that I'm quite happy with the extra toilets, but why do we have to get rid of the Julian terrace toilets before we build the other ones? We should maintain some infrastructure. Surely we can put a caveat on those toilets to say, yeah, we'll get rid of them once the other two toilets are built. Surely there's a way around in the legal sense. You can put a caveat on a lot of things nowadays. I put it on things at club. I put it in my house when my mother was living with me in case she wanted to take it off me. But the thing is, you can put a caveat or caveat, as some people call it. So I can't understand why we can't satisfy the people who put this petition in, 1,130 or 40 of them, and say, righto, yeah, we're going to get rid of the Julian Terrace toilets, but we're going to build another one. But until those two toilets are built, we're not going to maintain them or do them up, but they're going to stay there until the other two are taught. My main is with all the people I know, with Brian and Nathan and Ian, I've so many phone calls. What are we bloody doing? Get rid of toilets. We get stuck all the time walking. It's a beautiful walking trail. I've done it myself, rode a bike. Sometimes you get caught short. I won't call them a dunny Brian. I call them a toilet. You get short. Now, I've got no problem getting rid of the Julian Terrace toilets, providing the other two are up and running when we do. So I can't understand. I don't know, I've asked Mr. Delina, we can put a caveat on it to say until they're gone.
Yeah, certainly. Through you, Mayor. Just to answer that, that was always the intent, and that was the methodology that we had proposed in the construction. We would build the new toilets before we demolish the existing ones. This opportunity with option 4 presents another variation to that, but certainly that would always be the intent. So we wouldn't demolish everything and then bump in temporary toilets. We would effectively, wait for the new toilets to come online before we get rid of the other one.
I'll keep moving around. Councillor Vallelonga, you had your hand up next, and then Councillor Tooley.
I'm not sure whether I'm against it or for it, but we haven't been given the opportunity to say that you're putting another toilet there and where it's going to go, and let us know where it's going to go and approve it. Because I'm not too sure that putting it closer to the post office is going to make a big difference. Walker Place is fine in my eyes, and I don't have another problem with another toilet, but has anybody ever considered the south of, on the other side of Julian Terrace? Because that's a good walking trail up that side, and there's a call for a toilet at that end, but everybody seems to forget that end. So I'm a little bit confused here. We've never been given the opportunity to say yes or no for the toilet, where it's going to go, where you guys have chosen. Why haven't we been given that?
Well, I think we've got these options here in our report, Councillor Vallelonga, with pictures. Yeah, I might go to Councillor Tooley.
Thank you. I just need to start with two questions. I guess they're through you to Mr. Delina. You call it a pocket park, where I presume what that is, it's the Walker Place toilets are demolished, the concrete slab remains, the artwork remains, and then there's something done on the concrete slab. I couldn't work it out from the diagram, but it's essentially a hard surface. Is that right?
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Effectively, yes, the mural and the walls supporting the mural remain. There's some supporting columns that are put in to hold that wall, to make sure it's structurally sound. The concrete slab wouldn't remain. That's a new concrete slab. It's not a slab, it's a concrete surface, exposed aggregate surface that's put in, but it's a reduced footprint, and there's some garden beds that are incorporated within that, some park furniture and a bin. So
And there's signage as well.
signage, there's some lighting and other bits and
There's
pieces.
Aboriginal signage as well. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
not
from my
sure.
memory of the picture with Kaurna language in there.
Not in this, not in the pocket park, not at this point, but it could be.
Okay.
But there is some lighting and effectively landscaping that's proposed in that location, and
But it's
so
a hard surface pretty well.
effectively largely a hard surface. Yeah.
Because it's got a lot of seats and various things.
That's the answer. I
Correct, and there's an uplight on
So
the.
you wish
Yeah,
to speak?
second question. You said, I think, 300,000 was your estimate to refurbish that facility. Was I right, Mr. Delina? 300,000 to refurbish?
With the changing places, is that
Right.
correct?
Yeah, so can I just clarify that? Refurbishment cost could be whatever we want it to be based on the scope. So it's a scope that's relevant. So staff have gone to a cost consultant and said to place in the report I've referenced $150,000 broad brush commentary, and that being based on my own experiences in the past, retrofitting these types of toilets. You're putting a new roof, make it, modernise it, new partitions, automated doors, security, full, heights, tiling, the disability infrastructure, what's expected. The $300,000 was the number, $300,000, and that incorporated design and construction contingency that included a changing places facility. Because some of the commentary that we received from the community and the local disability providers and our local disability advocate was that this sort of facility needs to be in an open, accessible area, and it needs to be in the town centre.
And it is important because in the last census data, this area has a higher than state average of people with disabilities. So it is an important facility that we need to consider at some point. Now, Councillor Tu, you wish to speak?
I do, thank you. And I thank you for that segue in. You talk about our data. In 2019, we were told that Gawler has the highest heat sinks in the nation. These two that were in the advertisement on the weekend tells us that we're at risk of losing our green canopy. Gawler is singled out, and also our heat sinks. What we've just built at Walker Place is a bog standard heat sink. It's probably one of the worst designs if you're looking at urban design and greening. We could have greened it, we could have made it a people square, but we didn't. We spent the millions on a hard concrete surface. We haven't even put a shelter over it. I went into a smaller area in Clare on the way back from Port Lincoln where they put a canopy and it completely revitalised that area. All the shops benefited, everybody spilled out. We have no innovation, no shelter, just a hard surface. You're now proposing that with this money from Changing Places that you want to build another building, another footprint in what you call Martin's Place. Everyone that lives here knows that Martin's Place, that narrow strip of lawn with the beautiful Moreton Bay Fig at the end, is really sought after. It is one of the most popular areas that people sit and have their lunch. They sit there near the statue. It's a fairly narrow strip. From it, then you lead into the bridge. What you're going to be doing is putting another concrete slab and another building on there. And then where Walker Place is, we've just heard, we're not going to be returning it to a lovely green space. We're going to leave the majority of that infrastructure there and have yet another concrete facility. What we should do, and this is why I can't support this motion, what we should do is take this additional money and we should use that money to put that facility into the upgrade of the Walker Place toilets. Make that a really good facility and not chew into the green space of Martin's Place. I'm not sure that we will lose the money, but I'll say this to you, that if we do lose the money, in the scheme of what this council does, that is not a lot of money, and there's no guarantee we will lose it.
Thank you.
I haven't finished. $140,000, I'm only 2.5 minutes in. It is nothing. We spend more than that on legal fees every year under this administration. We spend $200,000 on the contributory items. We found that money out of nowhere. I noticed the leadership's not listening to me, but that's not unusual. $300,000 we're going to waste on boundary reform because we will not win that. We spent $300,000 on a biodiversity management plan. We can find money. If we were to lose that, in the scheme of things, we are only losing $140,000. Think about all of that other money and that other waste. It pales when you look at that. I know, speaking to Nathan Shanks and my own experience in building, that you can refurbish that for far less. We have the infrastructure, we have the toilet, we have the location. It is the perfect place. And the final thing is, and this is one of the things we're really bad at, we don't listen to the voice of our people. The voice of people have told us that the original decision that we made was not a good decision. And they've told us loud and clear, massive numbers, I hope Nathan speaks shortly, massive numbers that say they want to keep Walker Place. And you know what this recommendation says to me? This recommendation proves to me that the people making this recommendation don't live in this town in the main. This is made by a bureaucracy and an administration that I believe...
I'm just going to pull you up there because the author of this report lives in Gawler. Excuse me. I think you might want to retract that. I think you might want to retract that statement. The author of this report lives in Gawler and is a proud employee of this council.
Settle down. I know
So
you want to
might
do
want to
that.
retract that, Councillor Tooley.
You want to get on your high horse on that because you want to
Not
win
on a
this.
high horse, I'm just stating a fact.
Mr. Delena does not live in this town.
No,
And
the author of the report.
the majority of this administration don't live in this
You've
town.
made a mistake. I
And
think
what
you should
I'm saying
apologise.
And what I'm saying is that this administration, I believe, is out of touch with the voice of the people.
Way out of line there, Councillor
We
Tooley.
live in this town.
You might want to stick to the
I
issue.
live in this town, and most of the elected members live in this town, and we listen to the people of this town, and we're answerable to the people in this town. There's a big disconnect between this administration and the town. This to me screams at it. This to me screams at it. They're not listening to the people of this town. If they were listening to this town,
Councillor Tooley,
what
you're
Mr.
now
Delena
being
and others would be
abusive towards
advocating,
staff.
instead
So I
of
might
option
stop you
4,
there unless you
what
can
they would be
actually stick to
advocating
the
is that we
issue.
use that money to refurbish.
You've sort of really been
And you're
abusive.
doing that, Mayor, because you're getting on your high horse simply
No,
because
no,
you
I'm
don't
just
like my
stating a
argument.
fact.
And you want to nitpick on a small word.
Cold, hard
The
facts.
point is that this administration
You
is
got it wrong.
disconnected. This administration doesn't listen.
You got
And
it wrong.
it goes
All right.
ahead. It goes ahead and pushes
So
ahead
if you-
without listening to the voice of the people. And the
Thank you,
voice of the
Councillor
people
Tooley.
and common sense and finance says
Yeah, you
we should
really
keep
were out of
Walker
order.
Place and refurbish it.
Yeah, you got it wrong big time that time. Okay, now I'll take Councillor Vallelonga and then Councillor Kosh. Councillor Vallelonga.
I guess the toilet's where you're talking about. They're going to go near the post office? Well, I'm confused.
It's,
Wait a minute, I'm confused. Can someone tell me exactly where they're going to go?
you know where the James Martin statue is?
No.
You don't know where the James Martin statue is?
Other way,
On
that's
Julian
near the
Terrace.
post office, isn't it?
Opposite the post office.
Yeah, well, that's right. Okay,
Yeah.
yes, sorry, yes. So it's near the post office and Brian said, no, I'm sorry. Have you ever tried to park there? You can't
I park there a
park.
lot. I park there a lot.
Well, I go there a lot too, and people use that to go to the post office, and you can't get a park there. At least back this way, there's more of a chance of getting a park. So has that ever been considered?
Plenty of parks.
No, there's not. I'm sorry, man, there isn't.
Sorry, I always seem to get a park.
No, you might get a park, obviously, but it's hard to get a park.
Councillor Kosh.
Just quickly, firstly on Walker Place, we went to a lot of consultation, a lot of design. We actually won an award for that place. And one of the biggest things at the businesses, they actually wanted to retain their parking, so that was a big issue. And also people see that as a conduit between Julian Terrace and the main street. So people actually wanted it. That's essentially why it is. It's a shared use space. We have trees there that will eventually cool it and green the space. And issues, and for example, if you put a small lawn area in, for example, to green it, you find that it'll probably overloved pretty quickly and just die out. I've had a lot of experience of trying to manage small spaces like that in the public realm, it's very, very difficult. I mean, they get compacted. Anyway, I'll talk on this then. I'll support this because it's a common sense good outcome. I am disappointed though that we've had a petition out there that I think has been misleading. I don't think, that the petition actually said that it could be refurbished for $94,000. I don't know where that figure's come from or how it was arrived at. I was told that somebody at this table had given a quote or something like that. But, to refurbish it to the proper standards, Australian standards and Australian and disability compliant, which our policies will talk about, that actually came up in the CCS meeting the other day, that's $300,000. If we don't do anything, we'd actually lose another $240,000. So that's $500,000. So that's $540,000, and you're not getting very much at all. That's the cost to our community. I hope that people actually apologise to the community for misleading them, because people do want the toilets, and that's fine. I agree with that, but they want it close to where they are. So that's, for example, at Foodland at the post office. And I think it was just opportunistic politicking, unfortunately. I think as an elected member, you really need to provide information that is correct and all the information, because the community expect you to have that information, because you have, for example...
Hang on, Councillor Vallelonga has called a point of order. What is your point of order?
We were all in the understanding that they were going to knock down the toilets and there was only going to be one toilet, right? The petition that he's talking about is misleading. Yes, there was a petition, but it's to do with saving the toilet and putting 2 toilets in. Now, if that's misleading and the public, I'll go, Heaven, that's a point of order and they should be stopped on that.
I'm not going to uphold that point of order. I
Why
don't
not?
think what he's saying is misleading. I'll let him continue, but thank you, Councillor Vallelonga. Okay. Have we got the, yeah, no, if we can, no, I need to speak to it. If you could just, we could just hold your horses just for a minute and I'll grab the, thank you. Okay, points of order. Just give me a minute. I don't want to get it wrong because there might be a complaint against me and that wouldn't be any good. Okay, right, where are we? Okay. Okay. A motion that the ruling not be agreed with must be moved immediately. I'm entitled to make a statement. So I did not uphold that point of order. Councillor Vallelonga disagreed with what Councillor Koch was saying. However, he did not refer to any particular area of the regulations or the Act. And I don't think his argument was compelling, so I didn't uphold it. I've made that statement. A resolution binds the meeting. Do I have a seconder for that? Must be moved immediately. Do you need a seconder for it, Chris? Is there a seconder for Councillor Tooley's motion that my point of order be overruled? Seconded by Councillor Vallelonga. I will put that, no, you can't speak to it. I'll put that. That's correct. All those in favour of that, please raise your hand. All those against? It is lost. Thank you. We'll now go back and you can continue to speak.
Okay,
Thank you.
the reason why I say that, unfortunately, is because it didn't reference the central urban precinct master plan of 2018 or the 2016 Gawler Town Centre Design Framework. Now, a lot of us were on the council at that time, so we should have been cognizant of that. That the people should have been cognizant of that or done their research, because unfortunately, it provided information to the community, and they felt that they were losing something, and they could get something for nothing, basically, and that really wasn't the case. And also, what I find disquieting is that council, we had some emails from councillors about the actual cost and some of these other issues, and that came through, and I've been checking that petition, and even after that new information came through, that petition wasn't changed at all. So I could understand originally if somebody thought, oh, so this is a really good idea, and didn't necessarily go and do all the research, but then later on when the research did come through, that petition wasn't changed. So people were still signing it, thinking that for $94,000, you'd get a refurbished toilet that was disability compliant, etc., etc., etc. But it's not. It's going to cost $300,000. So I think that's disappointing that's happened within our community. And also, I mean, and now that we've got this other information, I mean, I think that could have been brought to the people that signed that petition as well. That could have,
30 seconds.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm happy to support this because it's a common sense thing. We're going to get 2 toilets, and really, what people are really asking for is a toilet, 2 toilets in Julian Terrace, especially near Foodland and the post office. So I hope everybody supports this. Thank you.
Councillor Shanks.
Yeah, thanks for the comments there. I've circulated an email that we were talking about. I believe Councillor Koch was pointing out, and I'm more than happy to work with all elected members. As I said, I wasn't interested in the points of orders and getting involved in that, just to show that I'm not playing the politics. I'm not interested in the politics. Now, what I will point out is I think we might be some confusion there is where we've said, especially as council have adopted to budget 94,000 in demolishing the current facility whilst maintaining the mural. I don't think I've spoken out of turn there yet, which means keeping the footings as well. I've learned tonight that actually technically is wrong. I didn't realise that before, but some new footings will be put in. If you know how building works, that's how it works. In our minds, the people writing the petition, it seems logical that if we were spending this sort of ratepayer money on keeping the current footprint, which again, we're not speaking out of turn there, and one of the main walls, why not use the same money to restore a much used facility? Now, where the confusion might be there is you're reading that as me saying it costs the same money to restore. What I'm actually meaning there is why not put that money to restoring? I can accept that the wording might have needed to be restoring or to put to, but the intent is just subjective. I'm not going to get into the debate of subjective intent on what you might read words and what I might read words. Because again, I'm not interested in playing the politics. The fact of the matter is, we put forward a petition because our opinions, our arguments were actually not being listened to. We never had the opportunity to debate 2 toilets in that location. The ones that talked to our community members were under the impression that community did want this. Hence the motion that Jim tried to move. Hence the discussion that followed when we realised that actually we still haven't discussed the fact that we want 2 toilets. Now this petition has been moved, and for some reason we now have 11.2. I commend the work that staff have done to come up with this solution. But the problem is right now we're stuck in a mediation sort of setup. And we're about to advance on something without the community consultation. And we have the opinion that this is actually solving the problem. I sent through the petition results in order to be transparent. I sent through the Facebook comments in order to be transparent. I made the process that we embarked on, transparent. And I'm more than happy to work in with you. However, this petition was started because I couldn't get a motion up to apply the logic that I think my community wanted. And here we are, as a builder, we're talking about $150,000 to demolish and put up a pocket park. Some of the critiques, if you read through the papers that I sent through, are grant money or ratepayer money is taxpayer money. Just because we have it doesn't mean we need to expend it. That is some of the common themes, and it can come across wasteful. There are some questions that I would like to run to ground. There's some more community engagement that I'd like to embark on to make sure that we are making the right decision this time, because in 2016, you did it wrong. You based it on 7 comments, and unfortunately, by the time we got to the headline event, after the Walker Place that's been developed, that I completely agree is a development that is actually ticking some boxes on an award sense, but it's also not ticking the boxes in bringing the community along for the ride. And this is an insult to injury by getting rid of this asset that it is quite clear is still wanted. Now, I'm happy to work in together collectively to provide community what they're after, to not waste taxpayer money, to not waste ratepayer money, and to also provide the community what they're asking while making sure that the administration saves face along with the past elected body. More than happy to work in. And I know my time's probably up here, but the way that this sits...
It is. Sorry, Nathan, it is. You wish to seek leave to speak again? Okay. Does Councillor Davies have leave? You have leave.
All right. So, yeah, I just wanted to say that, look, I think the petition was valuable because up until that petition, we were going for one toilet, and I think, you know, and that was the debate we had at the time. It sort of all got mixed. It all got mixed around at the time where, you know, what I was voting on at that last one was about, should we have the Apex Park toilets or should we have the Walker Place toilets? And I said, well, you know, let's keep going with the Apex Park toilets, no point wasting a grant. And then we got feedback from the community saying that is too far for a bunch of stuff we want to do. We do value having a toilet there. And so I'm happy to have been able to take that feedback and apply it to a toilet in the Walker Place area, whether that's exactly on the spot of the old one or whether it's, you know, 50, 80 metres away. I just think, you know, in general, the biggest weakness of this council tends to be that not adapting to new information. I think if we hadn't found this grant, I think a lot of councillors would have stubbornly said, well, no, we need to keep doing it this way, whatever the community says. And now that it's come through, I feel like there's a bit of stubbornness around, well, but we had our plans for this exact thing. But for me, I'm happy to keep adapting and to say, take in the new information and say, all right, we've got the petition. We've heard that the community wants 2 toilets. They want one in the Walker Place area. And this offers a way to do it that seems to be the best version of value for money that we can get that also includes disability and that sort of thing. So look, you know, I think this, yeah, as it sits, makes sense to me.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. Seek leave. You need to give me an indication, guys. Yep. You got leave. You got leave, Nathan.
Thank you, councillors. I've put a lot of work into this, and I want to make sure that we're doing right by the community. My builder brain, my ratepayer brain, my logic turns around and said, there's a solution here that meets halfway. It looks to the grant commission, it talks to them, it negotiates with them and says, you know what, we're actually going to talk about demolishing the Walker Place toilets as they sit. However, the location works really, really well. And we want to achieve the disability side of it as well, given the new information that has now come forward around the new grant opportunities that weren't available when we got it wrong the first time. These questions, these negotiations need to be taken seriously. And I can sympathise with staff in this, because although you might have a split chamber and it does go to 6 votes, those majority votes actually set the staff in the direction that they're in. And they have to act on what is on the books. So the way that they've advanced, I can understand that the feeling is we've come too far, our hands are tied. I can't accept that without seeing the data that comes back. And unfortunately, some of these indicative figures don't align with my industry. I think there's a solution here, and I think it needs to be teased out. And I think with some negotiation and some conversation around pandemics, around new grants opportunities, around new petitions, around a new elected body, we have a few very strong points to be able to go back and not argue our case, but work in with the state government. Because if we got this funding by just raising the hand, and I quote Sam Delena on that, by just raising the hand, we've now almost solved the problem. Imagine if we can just ask some of those questions and achieve the ultimate. We give the 1,174 signatures exactly what they want. We provide a new facility. We keep a mural, because 56 grand on a pocket park just isn't lining up. Grant money, ratepayer money, it's all the same. If we go through with this, without teasing out some of those options, we're still not bringing the community along for the ride. And I thank you again, councillors, for allowing me to speak again.
Thank you. Councillor Hughes, you want to wrap up?
Yeah, just fairly briefly, I think Mr. Delena sort of summed it really up about flushing money away. I don't want to lose, and I think this is the cheapest and best option, and will give us the toilets in the quickest time frame, and will satisfy the majority of the people in our community. I don't think we ever will please everyone in the community, but I do know that there is a lot of people that want new toilets, not the and want the old Walker Place ones demolished and hate them with a passion. So I think this solves that, and within 80 metres there's another toilet block. So I'd ask everyone to vote for this motion, please.
The debate's closed. I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against? It is carried. Thank you. Councillor Tooley has called a division. All those in favour, please stand. Please stand up and I'll call your name. All those in favour, Councillor Davies, Councillor Kosh, Councillor Goldstone, Councillor Hughes, Councillor Samble, Councillor Fraser. Stay standing, please. All those against are Councillor Vallelonga, Councillor Tooley, Councillor Little and Councillor Shanks. The motion is carried. Thank you, everyone. Very good debate. Thank you very much.
Mayor, can I request 16.1 actually be moved forward to the next item?
Can't get the Murray Street South out of the way. Can we do that first?
Look, I'm happy to work in with you.
Is that all right? And then
maybe put it in
In
after
your
that.
hands, I just know that they're wanting to get on. Is that right, Mr. Delina?
Yep, happy to work in with staff on that one.
Just because I know that they're desperate to get on. If we can do that, if you're happy,
More than
I'll
happy.
then take your motion. Are you happy with that, Nathan?
More than happy, yes.
Okay. 11.3, you happy to move that motion, Councillor Hughes? Do you wish to second, Councillor Tooley? I'll accept a seconder, then I'll come to your question. Do we have a seconder for this particular motion? 11.3 on page 37. Councillor Little, you happy to second? Thank you. Any discussion, mover or seconder? Got a question, Councillor Tooley?
I couldn't find in the attachments any plans, drawings, diagram documents for what's called Murray Street Stage 7. Where are they, or are there any?
Mr. Delina?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Redmond. They've been previously presented to council and been through a rigorous process with the council, maybe not this council, but effectively authorised. We put a report up in July this year, an update report which provided another copy of the plans. I haven't sought to include them in this report, but they are available if you look at the, I'll just, in the report.
On the hub, yep.
Sorry, just bear with me.
While you're looking for them, are they the ones that showed in front of MITRE 10, the, I forget the street names, but that area where some concrete medium strips and it's a change to the bleed lane that comes out from MITRE 10? What is that street? 2nd Street?
10th Street. 10th Street.
And then what's the diagonal?
7th.
7th. So
that's 12th. It doesn't go up to 12th. 7th's
sorry.
opposite. 7th's opposite.
Opposite.
Goes past Hyden Partners. That's 7th.
So it was, I do remember those now. So that it was those diagrams that talked about the medium strips, the concrete, the changing of the flow of traffic in that area.
That's correct. So it effectively put a safer movement out of 10th if you're turning left onto Main North Road, per se, that you'd have to give way before you, to the oncoming traffic before you moved out and merged into the turn lane, rather than directly merging in and having a potential weaving of traffic in and out of the left turn lane into Julian Terrace.
So could I ask a further question, Mayor, please? There was a number of questions asked at that time and a number of feedback, and I was one that represented some people, and that is they did express that concern that it changes the way you come out of 8th Street? 10th? Okay. You come out of 10th Street. Now what happens is you come out of 10th Street, you observe the traffic coming and you bleed into the lane, which is going to turn on Julian Terrace. What this will now mean is that you have to come out further because you can't turn left, and you're going to have a greater problem waiting significantly to get in. I don't believe it's a rat run. Can I presume that the design hasn't changed? You're still going to persist with that blocking change?
Yeah, so the design was previously presented to council and supported. So nothing's changed with the design since it was that previously presented to the council on the 28th of July this year. And you're still required to hold at the end of 10th, give way to traffic come on your right, and then merge into the traffic lane. And then if you want to turn left into Julian Terrace, you turn into the left turn lane.
Okay. Thank you. Can I speak to the motion?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I'm pretty sure I spoke against it and voted against it back then. There was a lot I liked about that design, and I think it did improve the entrance to the bridge precinct. I think there's even some public art type work, I think, incorporated to some degree, or some tree planting. I think it improves that entrance to the bridge from memory. But it is that sticking point on that change to that turn. That was the one thing that a lot of people in the community spoke to me about. And I think we also surfaced that the data, although it was claimed or rear-end collisions and all of the rest of it, I think the data has shown us that we just have not had accidents in that area. I know some in this chamber will catastrophize and tell me that they know of, a near miss and there was this and there was that. I think the reality is we've never observed crashes in that area. And I think that's borne out by the actual road safety data, that it works very, very well. And I guess you're going to say to me, yeah, you know what, it doesn't meet standards. Again, I don't know. You know, if you look at what was done out the front of the Southern Hotel and change there, and the fact that you can turn around that intersection and you can immediately turn right into the Shell. It just, what you observe in those designs just seems to counter what sometimes appears to be just spin and nonsense from DIPTI, or if we quote them, DIT or whatever they are, when the data speaks for itself in that area. And I think, again, we're going to live with the design, and just like the decision we've just made on the Walker Place toilets, and I'm glad we've done a division, because you're going to cop flack, and it's public, and I'm going to be able to say, I didn't vote for that, but I'll tell you who did. Those guys did. And that's why you're now going to have another concrete lump in a beautiful park and another concrete lump at Walker Place. And we're going to get the same here. We're going to cop flack with people that are going to say, what the hell have they done? And I reckon you'll have more accidents, because those people coming out of 10th Street, they now don't have the opportunity to bleed in. They've got to wait at a single lane point, and they've got to push in. They are going to rely on the other traffic showing generosity. And if any of you have travelled out there round about the 3:30 school run, it's a nightmare. It's right the way back to the roundabout and down towards the racecourse. You can't get out. And so the poor people are going to try to force the issue out of 10th. And I will predict that you now will start to get road crash data showing instances. And sadly, it'll be on our case, because we, as the deciding group, have not done our due diligence on this. So that part of the design, I think, is flawed and is not in the best interest of Gawler. And we all talk about local Gawler. Mayor talks about everything she knows about Williston and all the traffic and where the best places are because you live there. Well, that's one of our central pieces that we drive through all the time. And that is a really bad design that we're supporting. So I think you can guess that I'm going to vote against it, and I'm going to call a division as well.
Thank you. Councillor Shanks.
Mayor, I'd like to call a perceived interest in the matter. I'll deal with it by leaving the chamber.
Okay. You're filling out your form. Awesome. We'll allow you to leave the room, Councillor Shanks. Okay. Thank you. Now, I think I saw you next, Councillor Samble, and then Councillor Kosh. Have I missed anyone? No.
If I can, Mayor Karen, maybe this commitment to this project that we are here, I see on page 39, the program, projected program begins on the 25th of November. And on page 39, it says that, you know, that we've actually submitted to the governments for this money. Have we had a reply that the Australian government of $463,000 is definitely forthcoming, and that the state and territory government of $854,000, and then our council's got to put in $463,000, which is a total of $1,780,000. Have we actually got that money in hand? Because, I mean, I've noticed there, as I said, the program hasn't began now on the 25th, and I've mentioned a few times, this council and this town and this state is going through some very, very tough times. And I've asked the question a few times, do we have to keep going through with these projects? I mean, one $1.78 million. Now, have we got the money that says it here on page 46, or have the staff done all this work and everything? We haven't called contractors yet because it doesn't start till the 25th of November. Is it possible to put this project, which is huge, and I can't even imagine the problem of traffic confusion, you try and get across the road now and that sort of thing. Do we have to go ahead and keep doing these projects that are put forward to us? We haven't started anywhere yet because it says on the 25th of November, other than what our good staff have already put together.
So if we look at the table, the construction phase, the construction phase starts in February.
We can't be held guilty for saying, look, I'm sorry, we're going to shelve this for a while. We're going through some tough times. Or are we just going to go forward?
We've got the money. We've received both grants.
So answer to my question about the Australian government has committed.
We've got that money. Yep.
It's already committed.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Now, who was next? Was it you, Councillor Koch? Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. First of all, I want to profess I'm not a traffic engineer, and my professional indemnity insurance doesn't cover me for commenting on Australian standards when it comes to traffic. So I won't actually comment on that. So I'm quite happy to take the advice of the professionals who are qualified, who have that coverage. If they say that there's, and I do remember quite clearly the debate we had around, is it 10th Street, the one that leads in? And yeah, 10th. And I mean, I initially thought, okay, that's not a good idea, because that's I actually spin around there and everything else. But when I listened to the engineers and they're talking about this confusion between the two and the chance of having rear end collisions, and I said, yep, okay, I accept that, because they're the people that know, because that's Australian standards, and we really need to abide by those, because if we don't, we can really trip ourselves up. And also, in those situations, what people do, people tend to, if they find that, so this is a behavioural thing, not an engineering thing, people tend to find the best solution at any given time. So they might just go around the other side of Mitre 10 and come in the other side, and that would be their solution. So to say that that is a really big impediment, to me, it's not. So I'm happy to support this, because, we've started up at the top and we're working our way down, and I reckon what we've done is absolutely fantastic. And I'd love to see that last little bit done, because it's just full of potholes and everything else, and it'll solve a lot of problems there. There's some landscaping, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm looking forward to that. Plus also it'll be over the Christmas period, over that period. And a lot of people on holidays, thank goodness, everyone will be going away. So it's easier to do things over the Christmas period. So yeah, I'm quite happy to support it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Tooley, and then you've already spoken. I might go to Councillor Goldstone. Yeah, I'll let Councillor Goldstone speak.
Yeah, I've just got a question as well. On page 40 of 131, at the top of the page, there was a point 5 to the previous motion about approaching the Minister to seek consideration of provision of additional funding to go to 12th Street.
Yeah, they...
has that been knocked back, or...?
That got knocked back, didn't it?
Did.
Got knocked back.
Thanks.
Yeah, which was a real shame, but that's where yeah. Now, Councillor Tooley, you had a question?
Yeah, like I said, there is a lot I like about this, but that's the sticking point for me, which is why I can't support it. But the question is this: if it does go ahead, will the project honour our commitments that we've made as a COVID stimulation, that at all costs we will endeavour to buy local, to use local contractors, and to employ local as a stimulation for our economy, which has suffered incredibly and is suffering because of COVID? Does this procurement process honour the things that we have touted to the community that we're giving a priority as a result of our COVID stimulation?
Mr. Delena. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. This project's not specifically a COVID stimulus project per se, but the council signed off on all procurements having regard for local employment and local social benefit. So there will be a percentage allocation in the tender evaluation. We'll make it very clear in the tender documents the requirement that we have in terms of an expectation in terms of local employment. No different than what we did with the Walker Place, and we ended up with a 40% labour component of that project being locally sourced. And that's the outcomes that we're seeking for this project as well. We can't limit it only to local contractors. We need a certain level of experienced contractor to be the lead, but there's certainly our expectation, and what we'll be pushing through the tender documentation that we prepared is that we meet the council's intent and the council's desire to have a significant amount of local employment. It's not a mandatory requirement, but if you want to win the tender, you're going to have a significant amount of local employment and local benefit, which will come naturally anyway. But we're really pushing that, particularly through the post-tender negotiations, which is what we did with Walker Place. And that's what was ultimately some of the difference between the successful and the second place.
Okay, thank you. I think that addresses that question. Any other discussion? Councillor Hughes, you can close the debate. Councillor Hughes, I think you moved it. Is that right?
That's right. I think the improvements are certainly very important for it to go ahead. Talks about cycling lane delineation, improved drainage, stormwater, road pedestrian safety lighting, extra landscaping, some works opposite the Gawler Mill to improve that sitescape. It's works that can be done over Christmas, which is perfect. The local content's actually mentioned in the report and material. So I think it continues the work that's been ongoing for a number of years. We have workshopped this. We've had meetings on this one before. So I think it's important for it to continue on. Thanks.
The debate is closed. I'll put that motion. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hands. All those against, it is carried. Thank you. Councillor Tooley's called a division. All those in favour, please stand. All those in favour, Councillor Davies, Councillor Koch, Councillor Goldstone, Councillor Little, Councillor Hughes, Councillor Fraser. All those against are Councillor Vallelonga, Councillor Tooley and Councillor Samble. The motion is carried. Thank you, everyone. If somebody can ask and bring Councillor Shanks back in the room. Thank you. Got 2 people going out. 3 people going out. Awesome. Okay. So, Councillor Shanks, you wanted to move a motion to move item 16 forward? 16.1? Just 16.1? Okay. You've moved that way? Seconded by Councillor Samble. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. So, Councillor Little, you can present your motion.
Well, I don't know how it's going to go after what happened at 11.2, but yeah, I'd like to move that following motion as printed. Like I said before, now with the further information I've heard tonight, that if we're going to use Walker Place as an entertainment area, we're going to be up for hiring toilets every time we use it, because under the guidelines of the Liquor Licensing Act, you cannot have toilets 80 metres away from a licensed premises or a licensed event. So if we have to keep hiring toilets or portaloos and things all the time, it's not going to be beneficial for us, and the council's going to be up for more ratepayers. We had the same thing when we had the softball competition at Carbeatham Reserve. We had to hire toilets because there's not enough toilets, and this will happen again. Now, also to bring in the point that we've got enough construction along that lovely park as it is. I don't wish to have another concrete building down the road and leave the other one there. Now, if you're going to rip that one up, possibly I might change my mind, but to leave a concrete slab with a wall there, To me, I didn't like it at first, but I've grown to like it. I think it's a very good setup. I've actually been to a couple of things myself there. It's excellent. But we need to maintain a system of toilets that is adequate enough for that to be used or utilised properly. Now, I understand that during the week, Monday to Saturday, the toilets at this centre here are available, but they're not on Sundays. I've spoken to people from Costons, a lot of people know that, they come to Gawler and they use that area. I dare say they would use the new toilets as well, but that is a vocal point for a lot of people visiting from out of town. Apart from that, it needs revamping. I know the cost may be $300,000, but I noticed further in the agenda tonight that we might be able to find $450,000 we're not going to use for reimbursement to ratepayers if we vote that way. So my thoughts are that if the people, 1,100 and something of them, want this, why don't we use the money wisely and listen to our ratepayers? I mean, we're not going to lose face if we change anything we've done. We're still going to make that area fantastic like it is. We're going to maintain it and do it up. I mean, it costs $300,000. The other one's $254,000, I believe. So we're not that far out of pocket. So I would like councillors, even though you voted on the last motion 11.2 to continue with what we had, to give it due consideration, especially on my second point, which I think Mr. Delena has answered that question as well. But I still believe by redoing the toilets there, revamping them, make them up to standard, would enhance the Walker Place development, where a lot of things will be happening, the fringe. We do our Anzac marches from that area as well. It's a place which is always going to be utilised. So I would like the members to reconsider their 11.2 disapproval of retaining those toilets and reconsider, please.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Vallelonga, do you wish to speak? No. Any discussion? Yes.
Through the chair to Councillor Little, what is the distance that the toilets can be from Walker's Place for the licensing?
Question? Yep. Councillor Koch.
Okay, I suppose the first one, to maintain those, just to keep them running, it's $55,000 a year. How much does it cost to hire toilets? If you've got an event, how much would it cost you to hire?
Mr. Delena.
For the, say, the 1-2 events with liquor licence.
I'm personally going to have to take that on notice. I don't know whether Ms Finley might know from experience or not, but it's not a huge cost. I know that for a fact.
Through the Mayor, I believe for the Fringe report was about $2,000, and that's for a couple of days.
Yeah. Not very expensive. Okay. Yeah. And then I'll go to Councillor Goldstein.
I suppose the same question is, if we decide on this not to knock those down, because we're going to build the other ones anyway, will we be losing grant money? Will we be losing the $240,000?
I'm not sure how this works in the context of the previous motion, but if we were to keep these toilets, we would be handing back $140,000.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
And then the changing places we've resolved by building the new toilets, but just in this little body of work with respect to the pocket park and demolition, it's $140,000. If we couldn't negotiate some other outcome, which I think would be highly unlikely given the time frame that would be before we could get there to do anything on this toilet block.
Councillor Goldstein.
With due respect to Councillor Little, I just wondered whether this is actually a valid motion because it's contrary to the previous resolution. I don't see how we can act on this, given the previous resolution.
It's been moved and seconded. Is it a valid motion? Because it's in the agenda, I've allowed it. I'd seek advice, CEO. I seek advice. We've just... You've just resolved to do something quite different.
I'm thinking through the mayor, I'm just thinking in the context of what's been resolved. And as you say, the motion was presented before the deliberation. Well, now we have the deliberation. You know, when council decides on a matter, it's not to say that you can't have an alternative motion, but it's whether or not this motion effectively seeks to rescind the previous motion.
It's not rescinding the one first one, it's actually rescinds two motions because they're separate things, whether that toilet or that toilet are two separate motions, aren't they?
Well, again, I'm just thinking in terms of the relationship between the motion as passed and what was previously documented in.
Changing unisex delegates. I don't think it does. Notes has offered. This is about, so, yeah. Yes, keep talking. There you go. There you go.
Staff did receive what we did consider in the context of the agenda and understanding what Councillor Little was presenting, the relationship between those agendas, those motions. So I actually think that the motion is valid because the essence of the motion is seeking deferral, which is a point of difference to what was the recommendation in the report and what has council has more recently resolved. So I would put to you that the motion is valid and is appropriate for the council to continue its sort of consideration.
Thank you. Yep, certainly can.
If this gets up, we've then got two resolutions on the same issue. Because the previous resolution said we were going to establish the pocket park and demolish the toilets. This one now says that we can't establish the pocket park because the toilets are going to remain. So what I'm saying is this resolution,
no, it
this
doesn't.
motion here.
No, it doesn't. No, if I can, this motion, let me just bring it up. I've lost it again. Where is it? I can't find a thing in here. Hang on a minute. What page is it on? What page is it on? Can you just tell me the page? Because I've lost the page. I can't find it. 125? 125. Okay, yeah. I haven't gone far enough. Okay, so be deferred, that an investigation, re the cost associated with the refurbishment be instigated, may possibly be retained to enhance. No, it's not a rescinding motion. That's why it was allowed. It's not a rescinding motion. That's why it's been allowed into the agenda. The question was asked and it is not a rescinding motion. Thank you, Councillor Vallelonga. Continue. Now, did you wish to speak, Councillor Goldstone? No. Any other discussion? Councillor Tooley.
Yeah, I think what happened there was pretty poor. Councillor Little and the administration knows, it began with Jim's motion, that there's been a strong push, made absolutely clear, there's been a strong push to retain the Walker Place toilets. I think this motion should have come well before the officer's recommendation, because Councillor Little put it in well before that it was flagged. A cynic would say that the order was put in today in order to scuttle this motion. That's what a cynic would say. I think consultation should have occurred in politeness and decency with Councillor Little, knowing full well that Mr Vallelonga made one mistake when he moved his original motion. It would have got up, and that was it didn't say to retain both. If that had happened, we wouldn't have had a problem. And since then, the community's been behind us. I do believe this is a rescind motion, actually. I do believe this trumps the other one. That's my view on it. What I'll say about this motion is that it complements exactly what we've been saying before. And I want to reiterate this point. The money that we've got for this special new toilet block that you want to build in Martin's Place, that money can go into the Walker Place toilets. It can be used as part of refurbishing it. The money that we save by not making the pocket park goes into the refurbishment. At the end of the day, the money that we've saved is not far off the cost of a refurbishment. That is the fact. And if at the end we did, and I'm not sure that we will, if we did lose 140, in the scheme of things, it's not significant with the money that we spend. But here's the problem. If we build in Martin's Place, which I've said, if you need to look at it, it is a beautiful premium park. It's not that big. If we now rob some of that lawn and some of that space and the picnic parks and what have you, to put another structure in, and then you walk down and you haven't given back green space, you've now created a concrete, essentially a concrete pocket park that is just mainly there to keep the foundations and to hold the mural up, with then a little bit of tarting around it. You've now got two hard facilities. You're chewing into your green space. It's almost like in Adelaide, the way they're so protective of the parklands. They'll do everything to protect that. We've got a limited amount of our parklands, and that's our premium boulevard. And as Councillor Little said, the other thing with this is we've already got the infrastructure there. The plumbing is there. The connection to the sewer is there. All of that infrastructure is there. You just need to tart it up and refurbish it. Councillor Shanks is a builder. And I've worked with builders in my schools when they've come in. And we love to hire local builders. We hate to use government contractors. They seem to be a bit bad council. They seem to do things at a premium cost that everyone takes a slice. When you come down to a local competitive builder, they do it extremely efficiently. And I've seen the sums that Councillor Shanks' company could do this for, or a similar company. And the final thing is, just lodge it. Councillor Kosh, point of order.
Okay, so I'm going to rule on the point of order.
Go to the point of order. Before you start making accusations, go to your point of order.
Councillor Kosh.
And stop putting words in my mouth.
What's your point of order?
Stop.
Councillor Tooley.
What is your point of order?
The point of order is I'd like to know whether Councillor Shanks has provided a quote for this job.
That's not.
Because Councillor Tooley has just said that he's seen a quote.
Yeah, but that's not a point
of
order.
I'd like to know.
I can't uphold
I'd like to know whether, well, here's a question.
I'll allow. Okay.
Okay.
Shut up and wait till I finish.
Councillor Tooley, please don't use that kind of
maybe
language
Councillor
in
Tooley
my,
can provide us all the
chamber.
information.
Thank you. Yeah. Actually, I don't like it, so don't do it, okay? I'm the chair. Please don't talk like that in my chamber. Thank you. If you can continue, please. I don't uphold that point of order. Please continue, and please mind your language. Thank you.
I'm sick of being interrupted and having words put in my mouth.
If you can focus on the issue.
We can go back to the video and we'll see. I am talking figuratively. I said, if companies like Councillor Shanks.
I heard what you said.
Thank you very much. I am sick of this character misinterpreting me and going off on a tangent. It's ridiculous.
Keep going.
It's offensive.
Are you finished?
I have not finished.
Okay, keep going, please.
Walker Place location is the premium location, especially when this council says, in touting the very poor design of Walker Place with its concrete heat sink, it says that's where we'll hold the fringe events. That is where everyone is saying the toilets are in the perfect place. And for people to say and dismiss in the survey and to cherry pick when you've got thousands and say, oh no, they don't know. Someone's spoken to me. They don't agree with that is an absolute nonsense. Your previous decision was made on about 7 people in your feedback. And you'll tout that and say, oh, we consulted, we got feedback. This is real feedback. This is genuine people, and they understood the concept. Use the money that you were allocating to demolish and save the mural, contribute that towards. It was never put in as an absolutely scientific fact. It didn't need to be. It was gauging people's will, and the people have spoken. And for you to say, Councillor Kosh, and to diminish that and say that those people don't know what they're talking about is an absolute disgrace to the people of this town, and I hope that they hold you to account for that.
Thank you, Councillor Kosh. I think you had your hand up next.
Unfortunately, I won't be able to support this because I think it's at odds with what we've already decided. Because if we don't go ahead with demolishing it, so if you wait 12 months and you don't go ahead, we will lose $140,000. And there's very little chance of the department saying we're going to roll it over in a year and a half's time if they're already saying that they're not going to do it now. So really what you're saying, in a year and a half's time, we're going to think about whether you're going to roll it over. You know, you're going to lose $140,000. It's then going to cost us another $300,000 to do it up. So that's $344,000, which is, you know, worse than the $540,000. But the other thing is, people are saying, oh, we need to have those toilets there, so when we have an event where there's a liquor licence, we need to run it. It's going to cost us $55,000 on top of what we're already doing. You know, toilets down at near Foodland, which everybody needs, and toilets Apex Park, because that's where all the kids are playing. We're going to spend $55,000 to have a toilet in the middle for maybe 2 or 3 events a year. That's it. Maybe 2 or 3 events where they're selling liquor. That's it. That's the only reason why you need the toilets 80 metres away is when you've got a liquor licence. No, not other events. So you can have other events. It's only the liquor. So if you just take out the liquor, because we only ever have the liquor licence for the fringe, so it's probably only one weekend of the whole year. So you're actually going to spend $55,000 for one event. Okay, that's the rationale we're looking at, compared to $2,000 to put in some portable toilets for that one event for the year, because that's all we do run there. We might run 2, maybe 3. That's about it. I don't think that our community is going to say, well, that is not very good, wise spending of money. $55,000 when you can spend $2,000, and that is really that's what it boils down to, unfortunately. So for me, I understand that people have had this petition, but I say again, I don't think that people had all the facts, and because they were offered something for nothing, basically, but that wasn't, you know, that was a free raffle ticket, basically, but that really wasn't it, because it's sort of $540,000 is the cost of that raffle ticket. It's not zero. So I understand where Councillor Little's coming from, and I understand the passion people have around the toilet and what they're saying, but the toilets down near Foodland and Apex actually satisfies the needs of the community, and putting in a couple of portable toilets at $2,000 a go, once or twice a year, is going to save us, I don't know, $45,000 really. So, you know, that's a pretty good win for our community. So, unfortunately, I can't support this. Thank you.
Councillor Longer, you wish to speak? I'll just go to the councillor. He's had his hand up for a while.
Just a couple of questions first. Okay. Councillor Kosh has just quoted some costs here. I just want to verify something. Is it $55,000 to look after those toilets? I'm asking the real people, not you.
Per event, that's what you were meaning.
Yeah.
Oh, 55 a year? How much?
So within the report, we referenced $550 per week. Is that maybe?
Well, that's not $55,000.
So it's about
$26,000.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
$550 a week per toilet block.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
times that by 52. What is that? 27, 26, 27? Okay, per year.
Right,
Other question, Councillor Ballalong?
I just want to get these quotes right. And then also, Councillor Kosh quoted $300,000 on top, so he's sort of making it sound as if it's going to be $500,000 to build this toilet. That's an exaggeration of something that I don't understand.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit confused about that. Now, when someone exaggerates and lies to people, I think that should be a point of order, but we won't make that.
No. Okay, so I'll go to Councillor Goldstone.
Just a question to Sam, if I can. I just want to be clear on the
And then I'll go to
consequences
Councillor
of this
Shanks. Sorry,
deferral.
Councillor Shanks. Sorry, keep
Sorry,
going,
yeah.
sorry.
Consequences of deferral financially and impact on the project in general, given the previous resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Delina.
Yeah, I was thinking that through. The previous motion that we've supported was option 4, which was effective build the new toilets at Apex Park, still keep going ahead with the Pocket Park and then build the new toilets at Todd Street. What this is saying is just hold off on the demo of the Pocket Park. We had got legal advice previously that said this was allowable. The impact of this decision is effectively $140,000 loss of grant funding, unless we can somehow negotiate to hold it over for a year and a half or whatever
Which
it is.
you're not confident
I'm
of.
not confident that
No.
there'd be any chance of that occurring, but we would try. Obviously, that would be our intent, but not, you know.
Councillor Shanks.
So just so we're clear to the public listening, we're actually talking about $140,000 of grant money that we will not expend because we did potentially defer this toilet block. We're not talking about 140 grand that we have in our account right now that is ratepayer money that we have to give away if we don't expend it. We're talking about grant funding that is taxpayer money. So if we don't demolish the toilet for $94,000 and build a pocket park for $56,000, which in my opinion is a bit of a waste, my opinion, I offer that, then that means we have to give the money back. Worst case scenario. Councillor Little moved this motion before this 11.2 came up. Once again, I thank staff for reading the room a little bit on it, and I feel like we're almost there. We're almost there. Deferring this toilet block will allow us to provide the opportunity to actually look at what the 1,174 signatures are calling for. And I do hear elected members in the opinion of, oh, well, what they want is 2 toilets, it doesn't matter where. At least last time you went around this direction, you can actually say you did some public consultation. Now, we've got a curveball of 11.2. We've got a very strong case. I've no argument in that. There is an outcome here. We're almost there. By deferring this toilet block, we have the opportunity of applying the logic that I think our community is looking for, in my opinion. Because if we do keep on going, as is documented, then regardless of the 2 toilet blocks, we will still be known as the council that wasted $150,000, in my opinion, and 1,174 signatures opinion on a mural and a pocket park. Taxpayer money, grant money, not ratepayer money. We need to make that very clear to the people that are listening. The people that are listening that are texting me as this item is discussed, and I quote, I'll leave the name anonymous, imagine spending $1.5 million on a square, then more, to try to get people to use it, only to tell them you need to ship dunnies in if you want to sell grog. And there's valid arguments to these sorts of comments. And that's what a consultation is actually going to be able to tease out. Unfortunately, we're going to go in a direction that we actually, it's been thrown at us. I mean, it's been thrown at us very professionally, and I thank Sam and the team for doing it. But this decision is not something I'm comfortable making, given the public opinion around this. And I completely agree that the messaging needs to be clear. I had a crack myself with Councillor Little. If you think I got it wrong, so be it. Unfortunately, we were left no other avenues
And the time all of a sudden got really, really tight and the headlines changed around what was going on with this toilet. This new body came in, this decision was already in play. I apologise that it slipped through the cracks, but there's a solution here. We need to be clear, we need to consult, and once again, it's not ratepayer money we're wasting. We spend it or lose it. That's not the way that grants should be operated. Utilise it. Utilise it for the best of the community as a whole, not just the opinions in this chamber, the community as a whole. Once again, we're almost there.
Councillor Hughes and Councillor Davies.
Yeah, I think it's really important that we vote against this motion and allow us to proceed on the other motions. We've heard from the staff that any event at Walker Place that sells liquor, we're going to have to get portaloos in anyway. And we've won a grant for $140,000 to set up a pocket park, clean up the site, get the mural squared away so it's not going to fall over or deteriorate, so it's going to last and basically restore it. It is a lot of money, but we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on our playgrounds and playground equipment just for one little playground in little spots. They're expensive things, playgrounds. I think it's really important that this motion is defeated, and it allows the staff to then continue work on this project and get things done. Otherwise, we're going to find we're not going to get any toilets built at all. It's going to be dragged out. The Apex toilets aren't going to happen very quickly. We're not going to get work on that. We're not going to get work at this site until after the 29th of September 2021 anyway. Our community, who want these toilets want them sooner. I think 80 metres down the road at Martin area, we're just going to lose a little bit of Kikuyu. We're not going to lose any green space. It's just a bit of Kikuyu, which is pretty weedy. So I think get on with it. We've talked about this before. It's important to move on. This has been going on now for quite a long time. So I think let's get this over and done with. Thanks.
Councillor Davies.
Yep, so first, a couple of questions, so around this liquor licensing thing, so the current toilets, under the way the current toilets work, do you still, so just to clarify, if the toilets were just, still operating, would you need portable toilets with liquor license? No, because it is within range. Yes. For the Walker Place events, I mean, and my concern about the Walker Place events is that it's already a little bit, I guess, expensive for people to hire it out. I'm just wondering, so who foots the cost whenever someone wants to
our stimulus package is helping with that, isn't it, Erin? At the moment, yeah.
Through the Mayor, it would look at traffic management, but potentially if that was an issue, we could include that as part of the stimulus package. Yeah.
Okay, because my concern was, let's say a business wants to, use the space and it says, oh, there's an extra couple thousand cost, so, okay, so if we can get that with stimulus package, that makes sense. And the other question is just clarifying around because there was mention of delay of toilet demolition until the new toilets were built, which I think is the first time I've heard of that. But my understanding is that we're saying now that if we delay this, we'll lose the grant money. So can we not put off the demolition of these toilets until the new ones are built? Or are the new toilets all planned to be built before the deadline of February?
It's February, isn't it, Mr. Delena? Yes.
That was the intent that's the intent.
Does that include the new set of toilets that was just proposed, or will they have to come along later?
We're trying to move heaven and earth to make this happen. We believe we can bump in a kit toilet fits the changing places mould. We've already engaged with some suppliers that are on a local government panel. And then we would look to clad that, as the report said, with some stone so it reflects the aesthetic on the new toilets being built in Apex Park.
All right, and I'll speak to it then. So look, I've been, up in the air about this one. I guess to me, it's really dependent about the grants. I was interested to hear what Tony Piccolo had to say. Unfortunately, I don't feel like like he mentioned that we could extend, but I was hoping perhaps that, we could get some confirmation that maybe the, switching the purpose of the grant a bit would still allow us to keep the grant, because that's something that apparently hasn't been directly asked yet, but it seems, it's still a little unclear to me, but it seems like probably we would lose the money. And I think that is, the deciding factor to me. I do understand Nathan's point about grant money and all that, but, we are sort of, I guess I disagree about grant money, and then I think we should grab grant money and grab a hold of it. And it is taxes in a sense, but council gets it's like 3% or something of taxes. And, we work with what we have, and then the federal government comes around throwing around billions, and we sort of try to get it for our area. And that's, valuable. Of course it is zero sum in the sense that if we're getting the grant money, some town in New South Wales isn't getting it, but, it's up to be them. Then, we should get grant officers and apply for grants and try to do the best for Gola, try to be competitive. And that's what, and that's what I think is valuable for our town. So yeah, it really, to me, has come down to the grants, and I was, maybe hoping for some stronger substantiations about, being able to say, no, this won't lose us the grant money, but, I don't want to just, throw away, a couple $100,000 for no reason. So, on that context, I'm not sure if I can support it now.
Councillor Goldstone.
Just a quick comment, if I can. I'm not comfortable with this motion. I think we're going to be giving up the grant funds. It's delaying a project that 10 minutes ago we just resolved to proceed with. It's going to delay that. I'm just not happy with it, so I'll be voting against it.
Councillor Little, you can close the debate.
Thanks. Well, like I really said before, because we're in COVID, I've got no problems. We would get an extension. I know several things I know in my building where I am from the federal government. I've got an extension on the grant they've given me. Because of COVID, it's all been frozen. So if you do a bit of proper negotiation, you can swing things around. That's just a white elephant as far as I'm concerned. The other thing is in the face of people use that area all the time, and it's just so easy for access. It's a great walking track there, and I do not believe, even if we went 3 toilets, that they wouldn't be utilised. All I'm saying is for this one is, please retain it until we've got, if you're going to get the other 2 up and running, until that happens, because there's a lot of people with incontinence problems in this town. A lot of them have spoken to me. You get rid of that one, they're going to go all the way to Apex Park. They wouldn't make it, especially from Drake's and the post office. It's really well to say, yeah, we're going to build a new one, but if you're going to get rid of the other one, how long is it going to take before the other one comes along? It's a heck of a long time, especially. And people saying, oh yeah, we can go to the council chambers. A lot of people do not like going into here. And Sundays it's not open. So I know it's mostly going to be lost, but I'll be calling division anyway, because I've got people watching me, and I've been getting text messages like crazy saying we've lost anyway, because they've been watching. So I'm just letting you know that I'll be pulling a thing, because on my phone and my new watch I got tells me everything. That's they've been counting the heads, so I'll close the debate.
Thank you, Councillor Little. The debate is closed. I'll put that motion. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hands. All those against? It is lost. Councillor Little, you've called a division. All those in favour of the motion, please stand up. All those in favour of the motion, please stand up. Thank you, Councillor Vallelonga. All those against, please stay seated. All those in favour are Councillor Vallelonga, Councillor Tooley, Councillor Little, Councillor Shanks. All those against are Councillor Davies, Councillor Kosh, Councillor Goldstone, Councillor Hughes, Councillor Samble and Councillor Fraser. The motion is lost. Thank you. I know it's 5 to 10, but I think a quick... thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor Samble. Do you move?
I'd like to move a motion that this meeting goes extended to 11 o'clock. We have 22 items of this agenda.
I know. We've spent 2 hours
22
on toilets.
items and two very important confidential items. It is November and the confidential items must be handled tonight. I'd like to move that it's extended to 11 o'clock. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Samble. Moved by Councillor Samble. Do we have a seconder? Do we have a seconder, Councillor Fraser? All those in favour, please raise your hand. All those against? It is... all those in favour? It is getting late. 2, 3, 4, 5. All those against? Doesn't matter. All those against? No. All those against? It is lost. We go to 10:30. Okay. Do anybody need a toilet break? Yeah. We have 10 minutes, please. No. We go to 10:30. Go to 10:30. No, we're not having a break. We're going to keep going because otherwise we won't get through anything. Okay. So, CEO. Which item do we need to deal with tonight? Which items? Do we need to move anything around? 4, 5 and 6? 4 and 5? 4, 7, yep. Anything else? That's just noting.
There's 22 items.
That's a noting.
4 items left to go.
That's noting.
Okay,
we'll go 11, 3, 4, 5 and 7, see how we go. Okay, so we're going to 11, 4, the financial statements 47. It is important that we deal with that. This is a legal requirement.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor. 47, page 47. I'm going to ask you to keep up. So 11.4, you moved by Councillor Samble. Seconded by Councillor Hughes. Any discussion?
No, very explanatory.
Councillor Tooley? Okay, I'm going to ask you to speak right now, otherwise I'm going to somebody else. Okay. Any other discussion?
Nothing to say on that one.
You're wasting time. That's actually really rude.
No, I don't.
That's really disrespectful.
How dare you say that?
It's really rude. I'm
you
calling
need to
it.
develop a sense of humour.
No, I don't. Not this late at night. Anyway, if there's no discussion, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? All those against? It is carried. Thank you.
Division?
You're wasting time. I can't believe it. Okay, division is called by Councillor Tooley. If all those in favour, please
If you were
stand.
nicer to me, I wouldn't have called the division.
No, oh, so that's revenge now. Okay, so
It's a revenge division.
You know, we've got all those in favour: Councillor Davies, Kosh, Goldstone, Little, Hughes, Shanks, Samble, Fraser. All those against, Councillor Vallelonga and Councillor Tooley. The motion is carried. Thank you. So we'll move on to 11.5, quarter budget review. Thank you, Mr. Horwood. We've passed the financial statements. I think that's a big thing. 11.5, moved by Councillor Hughes, seconded by Councillor Kosh. Any discussion? Councillor Tooley.
Thank you, Mayor. Members, we continue to live beyond our means. We continue to have some of the highest rates in the state. I've heard people say here that we don't. I know people who live in Henley South who pay far less for their $1 million properties on their quarter-acre blocks than people pay in Gawler. 2 local business people sorted me out the other day. One of them, I won't mention them, but has 2 very prominent franchise buildings, one here and one in Brighton. And he showed me the documents for the rates he pays as a business for his footprint here and his comparable footprint in Brighton. And we are almost 5 times more than what he pays as a business. Another major business talked to me the same when I called in there and says they're really thinking about whether they continue, and they're a landmark business in Gawler, whether they continue because their rates are so high. Businesses and developers in Gawler are hurting, and they're very critical of our council's leadership and administration, and they pay some of the highest rates in the state. While the CPI has dropped to negative territory, and I know that because as a self-funded retiree, my increments come on CPI. I had to pay them back. They're going to get money back from me when the CPI comes up because we moved into negative territory. And yet this council moved 2.5% rate increase for our local people, and our local people are hurting. My question is, when will this council start to bring downward pressure on rates by reducing what I call the very fat cat salaries and perks, and by stopping the waste on things like legal fees, on ventures? You know my views on boundary reform, on contributory items, massive amounts of money, all costs ratepayers. I look at some of the things that we pay out. If I just take allowances, no, I'll talk about that one later. So my view, members, is that we cannot keep living beyond our means. We need to put downward pressure on the rates for the people we represent. They are hurting. And I think they view us in this bubble as a detach. And they view that we make decisions detached from their needs. And when our businesses are being crippled by high rates, when our developers are refusing or struggling to progress in the way they might, and when families are hurting and we add 2.5% on, we're just not doing the right thing. It's almost like we're like Nero fiddling while Rome burns. We're in a detach. I look around here at the administration, I look at us, we're probably all pretty affluent. I don't know that any of us are struggling. And sometimes that means we don't really connect with the people. We need to be more sensitive, and we need to take control of the budget better than we do. And we need to make some significant cuts and rein in our expenditure and rein in our waste and bring down our rates. So they're my views on the budget. And I notice the deficits that we see here. I see our expenditure, and it's not serving the interests of our town. It's not fiscal management. It's not fiscal conservatism that I hear people talk about. It's none of that. And I think I know how it will go, the vote. It's like a number of the other votes tonight. You will have to face up to the ratepayers, and the final decision of theirs will be in 2022 when they vote. And I am pretty sure a number of you sitting here will not get back up. They're watching the videos, they score, they keep a record. They like people to fight for them. They hear you saying, shut up, stop
10
talking.
seconds. Thank you, Ian.
Don't talk on every item. Just rubber stamp the administration. That's the message they hear too many of you saying. They don't see you fighting for them.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Councillor Shanks. Sorry, Nathan, there you go.
Yeah, so there's a lot of takeaways there that I can actually agree with Councillor Tooley around getting into the budget process and doing our due diligence. The way that the officer's recommendation sits for me is that we're adopting a quarter review and that we're looking at the budget position for the revised 2020-21, which is further informed by an increase of 1.158 million in capital expenditure. Now, like I said, I completely agree with some of the things that you're saying, and I think we do need to do our due diligence to be able to do the respect that our ratepayers elected us for. This officer's recommendation isn't that item, in my view. And I think this quarter budget review is based on the decisions that we made previously in our budget deliberations. I think that we do need to be a bit better when we're doing our deliberations around our budget, so that we're not in November sort of questioning around that budget. And I completely agree with that. But as it sits right now, I'm happy to support this with the onus while we're talking about it, to make sure that our community that is also listening assists us with that budget setting process that does start coming through. So yeah, that's what I've got to say.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Councillor Hughes, are you happy to close the debate?
Yeah, very happy. This actually motion actually shows that the council staff and councillors are actually working really well at bringing down the deficit. It was supposed to be 1.68 million. It's actually now 994. So we are doing really good work. We've had councillors tonight say things like, don't worry about the grant money, we'll hand it back. We've had things like, let's cut this meeting by 30 minutes and finish early as well by some councillors. We've got the staff here, we've paid the staff to be here, we've got work to do, and you want to go home early, Councillor Tooley. And you're smiling now and laughing. Good on you. No, they don't. They get the same allowance.
Keep wrapping up, Councillor Hughes. Keep wrapping up, Councillor Hughes.
They get that anyway. They get that anyway.
Keep going.
You're lying, Councillor Tooley.
Keep going.
Staff are here, so we should get on with things. We should move through as we're voting for.
Yeah.
Yes, and you voted for.
Keep going. Keep going. Are you?
Okay.
Anything else to add, Councillor Hughes?
I think we're operating really well. I agree that our rates are high. We're a growing area. Our new developments cost us quite a bit of money to work and upgrade, and the gardens and parks and everything else. So it's a huge impost. People think that these new developments are actually a money pit. They're actually not. They take a long time for them to actually blend in with the rest of Gawler, and are very expensive in the first few years for council to take on. So as we're a growing council, unfortunately, we've got all these extra costs, and we do incur a lot of legal fees. And yeah, I'll leave it at that.
So I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against, it is carried. Thank you. Now, the CEO has asked if we move 11.7 forward so we can discuss that. You're happy to move? Well, I'll do 11.7 because that needs to go off. Is that right? Yeah, 11.7. Can we move that? You're happy to move that forward? Thank you, Councillor Little. Do I have a seconder that we move point 11.7? Councillor Davies, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you, it's carried unanimously. So that's page 59 of our agenda. Page 59. No, page 59 of our agenda. That's on my number. I've got page 59 on my hard. Yeah. So we moved it forward. So we've got an officer's recommendation here, council. Councillors? Have you found the page? Everyone found the page? Yep. You happy to move that way, Councillor Fraser? Do you wish to speak at all?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. We have a seconder, Councillor Goldstone. Do you wish to speak at all? Any other discussion, Councillor Tooley?
Just to start with a couple of questions first, Mayor. This money that we've spent so far, it's 165,380 of the 200. Have we got any indication that the money spent is actually achieving what we hoped? Are we persuading the government in our favour as a result of spending that money?
Well, they've invited us to put a DPA, haven't they, Henry? Do you wish to respond to that? And I think we've had absolute support from homeowners. So it's actually been quite a positive approach, it would be fair to say.
Yeah, through the chair, I would say it's been an exceptional project in terms of the level of positive engagement with the community and the lack of serious objections in terms of this initial phase. But Ryan Viney might be able to provide some further particulars, but it's been a very successful initiative.
Thank you, that's fine. Any other questions, Councillor Tooley?
Could I, because I'm not seeing them, could I get some specifics from Mr. Viney on what the benefit is? Because what I see is that we've got this massive, and I've seen the one before, of pages that identifies which will and which will not be a contributory item, but
which will be a local heritage place.
I don't know how that benefits the difference to what we've had before. What are we gaining from it?
Local heritage place is identified in the Act. Contributory items have been advocated for over a couple of years as a result of lobbying around the code, and now they'll be mentioned under a different name in the code. That's a promise from the state government. So local heritage places are identified in the development, it will be included if it's approved, this DPA, in the development plan, and they have greater protection under the Act as previously been discussed, and is also included in the agenda. That's addressed your question.
So you're
that's benefit. No, I'm not going to Mr. Viney. Okay. No.
Well, I'll speak to the
thank you.
The item. Thank you. I think what you've just said is that we're going to spend money on a DPA, but we've got no guarantee that the DPA will actually achieve what we want it to achieve. The existing problems that we've got, and I have mentioned this before, is that we have a lot of problems for owners who have things listed in relation to their so-called heritage buildings that prevent them from demolishing that building or making changes. And as a result, because of the cost often that is required when council says, no, you cannot demolish that building, the cost is so high, two things happen. Number one, the person cannot refurbish and redevelop. If you watch Grand Designs, they'll say on Grand Designs that anything can be saved if you've got millions to do it. So technically that is true. But so many of these designs, and I've shared with you the woman up on High Street, up above High Street near the Bishop Street, I think it is, when her husband died, and I visited her because she invited me around as her elected member. And you could put your arm through the walls. There were cracks that big. They'd built an identical facility at the back which looked heritage, but could not get permission to demolish the ruin at the front. And Jim, we went to the auction where we tried to see and help and couldn't get the bidders because of that item. They knew that if they bought that, and it was quite an acreage of land in the middle of the town, they knew they'd have to spend hundreds upon hundreds of thousands. And at the end of the day, what they ended up with, if they could spend that money, is a very small building that you couldn't live in because it's one of those early settler buildings. You got low roof, just not functional. And this is the problem with it. And the same with our other contributory items. You've heard me talk about the walls. Jim's had walls fall over. I see there's another wall where we've got more orange bollards holding it up. I think it's near the railway station. Our walls and our heritage items are deteriorating, and this is not helping. I've tried to ask for strategies from this council because what you've tried in the past hasn't worked. I've got on the table a strategy to hire a stonemason, and you know my whole talking about that. That would be, for that small investment, we would leave a legacy for years to come, and we would train some people along the way. What we should be focusing is not $200,000 and then more money on a DPA, which may not get us where we want to go. We should be putting our energies, our efforts, we should have the leadership in the town. Can you share the joke? Are you looking at something on your phones you shouldn't be looking at? You should be paying attention.
No, my phone's over here.
Come on, you're very highly paid executive.
Keep going, you're wasting
My
your
words
time.
are important. You should be, they're gems. You should be listening to them. Stop talking amongst yourself and giggling.
Yes,
you two.
sir. Yes, sir.
Well, stop giggling. You told me off for saying shut up before. I'm telling you two off for giggling and not paying attention.
Thank you, Mr. Principal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I was a very kind principal. I wish you were a much kinder mayor.
Sure you were.
You're not very kind to me.
You're wasting your time.
No, I'm okay for time. I've got my clock on. So what we need to do is show more leadership and more initiative. And like the scheme I've put for us, where we train a local person, we employ a local stonemason, and we put them on the books for about 100 grand. We know it could even be less than that. And in 1 year, we could leave a legacy that most, our very worst deteriorating walls could be restored. And I've said this all along, and I think I'm going to be proven right, that nothing will change at the end of this rush and this list to photograph every single house, identify it. It'll be just another document sitting on the shelf, but it will not serve the purpose of helping those owners or developers, and we will not see an improvement to the heritage that we say we treasure. And I do treasure it. I do treasure the heritage. But there is some rubbish that was never, ever meant to last. Some of those pioneers grabbed the cheapest stuff and built, and they were surprised it lasted 2 years. Well, some of it has lasted 100.
5 minutes.
I've got another 5 minutes?
No.
Can I have an extension?
Councillor Koch wishes to speak.
Oh.
We're going to run out of time otherwise. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. First of all, if you employ stonemasons, if our council employed a stonemason, I doubt we could actually spend that time on private properties. That's the first thing. I'm supportive of this because the heritage buildings in our town set the character of our town. Our town has a beautiful character and vibe, I suppose, about it because of its heritage buildings. They were protected as contributing items, but unfortunately, with the new planning rules, that's lost. So all of a sudden, they can be just wiped off. And one of the reasons why there's a lot of push is because in some towns, a lot of the contributing items are close to your town on big blocks. So developers actually want to get in and wipe them out and put up some really ordinary concrete boxes which aren't very environmentally friendly, because you make more money by putting more boxes onto a piece of land. So you have to put a big air conditioner on the side and blast away, which is pretty handy. But these older houses actually have been built for the environment. They're cooler in summer and retain the heat in winter. So what we were doing is transferring those buildings from being contributor items to local heritage items, and I'm very pleased to hear that the owners, the residents, are supportive of this, because I think the reason why they're supportive of this is because they see the value of heritage. They see the dollars in the heritage, because people come to Gawler to buy our older heritage houses. They buy them, they buy them up, snap them up, and they renovate them, and that gives value to them and also to our town. Now, I've got another story about an older lady, She had this beautiful heritage house up in Gawler East, and someone came in and said, "Oh, I love your house, love your house. You know, we want to buy it, and you know, bring my family in, and we're going to do it up." And this was her this was the home that she had for a lot of years. And she said, "Oh," and this young woman said, "Yes, that's fine. You know, we want to build it up, and you know, we're going to bring my family up in it." So the lady sold it to her. As soon as you sold it, guess what happened? It wasn't protected, it was bulldozed. And this lady was heartbroken. And she told me about it. She said, "Look, I was so heartbroken that what happened was that the developers had come in and they just wanted the land." So this is the truth that happens. This is the actual truth, that it really is.
Keep going, Councillor Koch.
All right, well,
Councillor Koch, will keep going, please.
I just want to say sometimes.
No, we've got to keep going because we're going to run out of time.
Oh, sorry. So anyway, so before we had contributing items and that protected it, and now we're going to move to another form, another product of protection, equal tribe value, and it's really, really valued in our town because it really stamps the character of our town. So I'm all for this and hope that everybody supports it. Thank you.
Councillor Fraser, do you want to close the debate? You happy to close the debate? Okay, I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hands. All those against, it is carried. Division, Councillor Tooley has called a division. All those in favour, please, can you stand? All those in favour, please stand, and I'll call your names out. Councillor Davies, Councillor Koch, Councillor Goldstone, Councillor Little, Councillor Hughes, Councillor Shanks, Councillor Samble, Councillor Fraser. All those against are Councillor Vallelonga and Councillor Tooley. The motion is carried. Thank you. Yes, you wish to move that. Moved by Councillor Tooley. It's on page 127. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hughes. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. That is on page 127. 127 of our agendas, councillors. I actually found it. I can't believe it. Popped up. You have the floor, Ian.
Thank you very much, Karen.
That's my name.
Now, I consulted with the Mayor and asked her what she thought of this idea, and she is very accepting of it. I then did some other homework as to logistics, how it can work. So I contacted the Salvos, Darren Cox, and anticipating the questions that could come up. Okay, how do you deal with the distribution? How do you deal with people who play pranks in gifts and, you know, all of that sort of thing, and what's the safety issues? And he assured me that they have a mechanism for distribution. Their problem is they just don't have enough gifts. The need is immense. And he told me the stories of the joy it absolutely brings when they take food hampers and gifts to families in need. And they're broken families, they're single parents, they're kids that just, my daughter teaches many kids like this in Gawler. It would break your heart if you heard the stories. And she, in her class, she has things, she has underwear for these kids. She has lunch for these kids. She buys this stuff out of her salary because these kids come to school defecated upon. You would have no idea what it's like out there in parts of Gawler. It would break your heart. So Darren said to me, Ian, the need is immense, the giving is not enough, and we have the mechanism. And he said to me, Ian, we do not want to do this on our own. We would partner with all of the other charities, UCare, Vinnie's, they've got a network, a Ministers Fraternal, they're ready to go. He said what they do, they have a protocol where they would prefer the gift is not wrapped. The person could give the gift with the wrapping paper, but if they do wrap them, they have a way of just checking that there's not someone put a dog turd in a box, all right? Sadly, the odd person does And the way it would work is, and I believe the Mayor, we do have a tree, and I've even checked out if we didn't have a tree, we can start small with what we got, but we can get donations in the future. And we can have that tree. The win-wins is it goes in the foyer here. It beautifies this building. It makes it look more Christmassy. It complements what's going to happen in here over Christmas. And we advertise to people, bring a gift, little boy age 6, put that on there, wrap it if you want, or put the paper in, bring it in. We make it really simple. I contacted Sarah at the Bunyip. She was right on it. She said, we would give you support, we would give you promotion. I said to Darren, I've got to wait till November. Would have liked the nod earlier, but he said, it's not a problem. If you hit the ground running from that point, we'll go with it. So look, I think I've answered all your questions. I think it's there. This could be a fantastic legacy. The Mayor has set up the Christmas cards. That's taken off. You saw the beautiful display of stuff. Imagine if this takes off. It might be small this year, but it could be massive next year. Darren's got the distribution network. And if we want to volunteer to help him, we can do that. They do it sensitively, so there's no embarrassment for the families. So I just hope you can support this.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Davies. Any discussion? If not, Councillor Tully, I'm going to put that motion.
Yes, please.
All those in favour of the motion? Carried unanimously. Now, I think we need a motion to adjourn. Councillor Davies, would you like to oblige? Sorry.
Yeah, I'll move that we adjourn to a special meeting before the next ordinary council meeting.
Thank you. Please, no. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Koch, it's a formal motion. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? All those against? It is carried. Thank you. Thank you. So the meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everyone. I think we've had some really good debate tonight, so thank you. Didn't get through very